Hi there, friends. Thanks for tuning in to another Harry. Get ready for an incredible journey as we present What If Enid's werewolf hearing found Harry crying alone and Wednesday made him an Addams at age 4. If you find our stories entertaining, a simple like and subscribe would mean everything to us. Your support motivates us to create more. Here we go. Chapter 1. The cry in the dark. Enid Sinclair bounced on her toes as she approached the wrought iron gates of the Addams family mansion, her bright pink suitcase rolling behind her. The gargoyles on the gate posts seemed to track her movements, but that didn't faze her anymore. 3 weekends at the Addams place had taught her that the creepy stuff was just window dressing. You made it, Wednesday, Addams said, appearing suddenly beside the gate. Her black dress hung perfectly still despite the October wind that whipped through Enid's colorful scarf. Wednesday. You scared me. Enid laughed, dropping her suitcase to hug her friend. Wednesday remained rigid in her embrace, arms at her sides. Physical contact. Again. Wednesday's monotone voice betrayed the tiniest hint of amusement. You never learn. And you never change, Enid said, pulling back with a bright smile. That's why we work. The gates creaked open on their own, and Enid grabbed her suitcase, practically skipping toward the looming mansion. Dead trees dotted the property, their skeletal branches reaching toward a cloudy sky. Graves of various sizes and ages protruded from the uneven ground, some with fresh flowers that somehow managed to look mournful rather than cheerful. Mom made your favorite, Wednesday said as they walked. Eye of newt stew. You're joking, right? Enid laughed nervously. That's not a real thing people eat. Wednesday's face remained impassive. The eyes are optional. Inside the mansion, Lurch greeted them with a low, rumbling groan that Enid had learned meant, welcome. The enormous butler took Enid's suitcase with surprising gentleness. Thanks, Lurch. Enid beamed at him. The butler's mouth twitched in what might have been a smile before he shuffled away. Morticia Addams glided into the foyer, her floor-length black dress seeming to float above the ground. Enid, darling. How wonderful to see you again. I trust your parents are well. They're great, Mrs. Addams. Thanks for having me this weekend. Enid smoothed down her bright yellow sweater, feeling like a tropical bird in a cave of bats. Mom's still doing her cheerleading coach thing, and the whole house is, like, covered in inspirational quotes. I needed a break from all the... She waved her hands, brightness. Of course, dear. Everyone needs a touch of gloom now and then. Morticia gestured toward the grand staircase. Wednesday, why don't you help Enid get settled? Dinner will be ready at sunset. Gomez is just finishing his fencing practice with Uncle Fester. Yes, Mother, Wednesday replied. Come on, Enid. I've been working on a new poison. I need your enhanced olfactory senses to detect the subtle notes of hemlock. Cool. I mean, as long as I don't have to taste it this time, Enid said, following Wednesday up the stairs. The guest room assigned to Enid somehow managed to be both luxurious and morbid, a canopied bed with black silk sheets, heavy velvet curtains, and what appeared to be authentic medieval torture devices displayed on the walls like artwork. I never thought I'd say this, but this room feels like home now, Enid said, tossing her suitcase onto the bed. Way better than last time when I had to sleep in your great-aunt's coffin. Grandmama thought it would help with your transformation anxieties, Wednesday replied. The confined space mimics the womb. Yeah, well, werewolves aren't really coffin people, Enid laughed. So, poison making? Wednesday nodded and led the way to her bedroom laboratory. The space looked like a mad scientist's dream, with bubbling beakers, ancient texts, and specimen jars containing things Enid deliberately avoided identifying. For the next hour, Wednesday worked methodically while Enid chatted about school, her family, and the latest werewolf pack drama. Wednesday rarely responded with more than a word or two, but Enid knew she was listening. Can you smell this and tell me what you detect? Wednesday held up a small vial of greenish liquid. Enid leaned forward cautiously and sniffed. There's definitely hemlock, like you said. Also, nightshade. Something minty. And. Her nose wrinkled, is that garlic? Excellent. Your olfactory capabilities have improved since last month. Wednesday made a note in her leather-bound journal. The garlic is to mask the poison sent from normal humans. Cool, but, what exactly are you planning to do with this stuff? Wednesday's expression didn't change. Nothing immediately lethal. Before Enid could press for details, her head suddenly jerked toward the window. Her enhanced hearing had picked up something, a sound so faint that no normal human would notice it. What is it? Wednesday asked, noticing the change in her friend's posture. I hear, crying. Enid moved to the window, her eyes scanning the property. A kid, I think. Really young. Wednesday joined her at the window. Where? Beyond the cemetery. Near the road. Enid's werewolf hearing was still developing, but certain sounds, like distress calls, triggered her heightened senses. It's a boy, I think. He sounds scared. Without hesitation, Wednesday grabbed a small crossbow from her wall display. Let's investigate. Is the crossbow really necessary? Enid asked, following Wednesday out of the room. In this house? Always. They slipped downstairs without encountering any family members and exited through a side door that led directly to the cemetery. Enid let her hearing guide them, occasionally stopping to tilt her head and recalibrate. It's getting stronger. This way, she said, pointing toward the road that ran past the Addams property. They reached the wrought iron fence that separated the estate from the public road. Through the bars, they could see a luxury hotel across the street, its grounds decorated for some kind of fancy event. Cars lined the hotel's circular driveway and spilled onto the street. I don't see any kids, Wednesday said, scanning the area. He's in one of those cars, Enid replied, her hearing now pinpointing the source. That dark blue one parked on the street. They slipped through a gap in the fence and approached the car cautiously. The rental vehicle had tinted windows, but as they got closer, Enid could make out a small figure in the back seat. There's a kid locked in there, she whispered to Wednesday. Wednesday peered through the window. Inside was a tiny boy with messy black hair and round glasses that had been clumsily repaired with tape. He couldn't have been more than 4 years old, and he was curled up in the back seat, knees to his chest, crying quietly. Wednesday knocked on the window. The boy looked up, startled, his green eyes wide with fear behind his glasses. He shrank back against the seat. Hey, it's okay, Enid called through the glass, giving him her friendliest smile. We just want to help. Are you stuck in there? The boy nodded hesitantly. Is the car locked? Wednesday asked. The boy nodded again. Wednesday examined the door lock. I can pick this. Or we could just. Enid gestured to the window. Breaking it would draw attention, Wednesday replied. From her pocket, she produced a set of thin metal tools. This will be quieter. Within seconds, Wednesday had unlocked the door. She opened it slowly, and the boy pressed himself further against the opposite side of the car. It's okay, Enid said gently, crouching down to eye level. We're not going to hurt you. I'm Enid, and this is Wednesday. What's your name? Harry, the boy whispered, his British accent surprising them both. Hi, Harry. Why are you locked in this car? Enid asked. Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia went to the party, Harry said, pointing to the hotel. Dudley too. I'm not allowed. So they left you here. Alone. Enid's eyes flashed yellow for a moment, her werewolf instincts responding to the mistreatment of a cub. Harry nodded, looking down at his hands. I'm supposed to be quiet and not make trouble. Wednesday studied the boy with clinical interest. How long have you been in here? Harry shrugged his small shoulders. Since the sun was up there, he pointed to a spot in the sky that suggested several hours had passed. Enid and Wednesday exchanged glances. Even by Addams standards, locking a child in a car for hours was extreme. "Are you hungry?" Enid asked. Harry hesitated, then nodded slightly. "We have food at our house," Wednesday said, gesturing toward the mansion visible over the cemetery fence. "And no one gets locked in cars there. Unless they want to be," Enid added, then quickly backtracked at Wednesday's look. "Which is totally not a thing anyone wants. Ever." Harry looked uncertainly between them and the hotel. "I'll get in trouble if I'm not here when they come back." "When will that be?" Wednesday asked. "Uncle Vernon said the boring business dinner might take all night," Harry replied. "Business dinner?" Enid repeated. "Is your Uncle Vernon Dursley? From that drill company?" Harry nodded, surprised. "My dad was talking about that conference," Enid explained to Wednesday. "It's some big international business thing. Bunch of European companies trying to expand to America." Wednesday considered this information. "So they're not even your parents? They're your aunt and uncle?" Harry nodded again. "My parents died in a car crash when I was a baby. That's how I got this." He pushed his unruly hair back to reveal a lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. Wednesday leaned closer, examining the mark with interest. "That's not a typical impact scar. It has magical residue." "Magic isn't real," Harry said automatically, as if repeating something he'd been told many times. "Aunt Petunia says it's for freaks and liars." "Your aunt sounds delightful," Wednesday said dryly. "Tell me, Harry, have strange things ever happened around you? Things you couldn't explain?" Harry's eyes widened, and he looked around nervously before whispering, "Sometimes. When I'm scared or angry. But I'm not supposed to talk about it." "Of course not," Wednesday said. "Normal people fear what they don't understand." She turned to Enid. "He's coming home with us." "What?" "Wednesday, we can't just take him," Enid protested. "Why not?" "His relatives abandoned him in a locked vehicle. They're neglectful at best, abusive at worst." Wednesday turned back to Harry. "Where do you sleep at home, Harry?" "In my cupboard," he answered innocently. "Your cupboard?" Enid repeated, horrified. "Under the stairs," Harry clarified, as if this was perfectly normal. "It's not so bad. I have a mattress and some of Dudley's old broken toys." Wednesday nodded decisively. "As I suspected. Harry, you're coming with us." "But," Harry began. "Your relatives won't be back for hours," Wednesday cut in. "You can have dinner with us and be back before they even notice you're gone." Enid bit her lip, torn between concern for Harry and worry about the consequences. "Wednesday, are you sure about this?" "His aura has darkness in it," Wednesday said. "Not evil, but a shadow that suggests great power. He belongs with the Addams." "I don't understand," Harry said, looking confused and a little frightened. Enid knelt down to his level again. "What Wednesday means is that we think you're special, Harry. And we'd like you to come have dinner with us instead of sitting alone in this car all night. We live right over there." She pointed to the mansion. "You can see the hotel from our house, so we'll know when your aunt and uncle come back." Harry considered this, looking between the girls and the mansion in the distance. "You have food?" "Loads," Enid assured him. "Mrs. Addams is a great cook, as long as you don't ask what's in anything." That earned a small smile from Harry. After another moment's hesitation, he scooted toward the door. "Okay. But I have to be back before they come looking for me." "They won't even know you were gone," Wednesday promised, in a tone that made Enid wonder exactly what her friend was planning. Harry climbed out of the car, revealing clothes that were several sizes too large for his small frame. The worn jeans were rolled up multiple times and cinched with what appeared to be a piece of rope, while the t-shirt hung to his knees. "Are those your cousin's clothes?" Enid asked gently. Harry nodded. "Dudley's old ones." Aunt Petunia says I should be grateful I get anything at all. Wednesday's normally impassive face darkened slightly. Charming family. They led Harry back through the gap in the fence and across the cemetery toward the mansion. Harry stayed close to Enid, occasionally glancing nervously at the gravestones and statues they passed. "Are those real graves?" he whispered to Enid. "Yep," she replied cheerfully. "The Addams family has lived here forever. These are all their relatives. And some non-relatives who made the mistake of trespassing," Wednesday added. Enid nudged her. "She's joking," she told Harry, though she wasn't entirely sure that was true. As they approached the house, the front door swung open, and Morticia Addams appeared, looking curiously at the small boy between the girls. "Wednesday, Enid, I see you've brought home a guest," she said, her voice smooth and cultured. "Mother, this is Harry," Wednesday said. "His relatives locked him in a car across the street while they attend a business function. I've invited him for dinner." Morticia's eyes narrowed slightly. "Locked in a car? How discourteous." She knelt gracefully, bringing herself to Harry's eye level. "Hello, Harry. I'm Morticia Addams, Wednesday's mother. You're very welcome in our home." Harry shrank back slightly, intimidated by this elegant, ghostly woman. "Thank you, ma'am," he whispered. "Such manners," Morticia smiled, standing up. "Come inside, all of you. Dinner is nearly ready, and Gomez will want to meet our guest." They followed Morticia into the grand foyer, where Harry stopped and stared in wonder. Suits of armor lined the walls, alongside weapons, taxidermy, and paintings of stern-looking ancestors. A chandelier made of what appeared to be human bones hung from the ceiling, and a stuffed bear stood in the corner, frozen in a roaring pose. "Your house is brilliant," Harry breathed, his fear temporarily forgotten in the face of such fascinating surroundings. "Thank you, child," Morticia said. "It's been in the family for generations." A disembodied hand scuttled down the banister and across the floor, stopping at Harry's feet. Harry's eyes widened, but instead of screaming, he knelt down for a closer look. "This is Thing," Wednesday explained. "Our hand." Thing extended a finger, which Harry carefully shook. "Hello, Thing," he said solemnly. "I'm Harry." "Well, I see we have a visitor," boomed a cheerful voice. Gomez Addams strode into the foyer, dressed in a pinstriped suit with his hair slicked back. He was followed by a bald man in a long coat, who had an unnerving grin and wild eyes. "Harry, this is my father, Gomez Addams, and my uncle Fester," Wednesday said. "Cara mia, who is this young man?" Gomez asked Morticia, twirling his mustache. "This is Harry, darling." Wednesday and Enid found him locked in a car across the street. "His relatives are attending that business conference at the hotel." Gomez's expression darkened momentarily before his smile returned. "Abandoned, were you? Well, you've come to the right place. The Addams family has a long tradition of taking in strays, outcasts, and the occasional lost soul." He knelt down, extending his hand. "Gomez Addams, at your service, young sir." Harry shook his hand tentatively. "Harry Potter, sir." "Potter?" Fester repeated, leaning closer to examine Harry. "Say, isn't that the name of that British wizard family? The ones who got blown up a few years back?" Harry's mouth fell open. "You knew my parents?" An awkward silence fell. Morticia gave Fester a warning look. "I think you must be mistaken, Uncle Fester," she said smoothly. "Harry's parents died in a car accident. Isn't that right, Harry?" Harry nodded slowly, but his eyes were fixed on Fester with new intensity. "That's what Aunt Petunia told me. But, did you know them? Were they really wizards?" "Not now, Harry," Wednesday said quietly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "First, dinner. Then we talk about your parentage." Harry allowed himself to be guided toward the dining room, though he kept glancing back at Fester. The dining room was dominated by a long table made of dark wood, set with silver candelabras and black candles. Plates of food were already laid out, some recognizable, others decidedly not. "Sit here, Harry," Wednesday said, pulling out a chair next to her own. "Enid, you can sit on his other side." Harry climbed onto the chair, which was too tall for him. Lurch appeared silently with a large book, which he placed on the seat to boost Harry up. "Thanks," Harry said, smiling at the butler. Lurch gave another of his groaning sounds in response. "Lurch says you're welcome," Gomez translated cheerfully. "Now, let's eat." "Tish, my dear, you've outdone yourself again." The meal was unlike anything Harry had ever experienced. Some dishes he recognized, roast beef, potatoes, bread, while others were completely foreign and somewhat alarming in appearance. Enid quietly steered him toward the safer options, while Wednesday occasionally tried to tempt him with something unusual, "Just a tiny bite of the squid ink pasta, Harry. It makes your tongue go numb." Throughout dinner, Harry kept stealing glances at Uncle Fester, who was enthusiastically describing an experiment involving electricity and metal fillings to Gomez. When the meal was nearly finished, Harry couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. "Mr. Fester, sir," he said quietly, "did you really know my parents?" The table went silent. Fester looked uncertainly at Morticia and Gomez. "I don't think I knew them personally, kid," Fester finally said. "But I remember hearing about the Potters. There was a big to-do in certain circles when they died." "What circles?" Harry pressed. "The magical community," Morticia said gently, taking over. "Harry, there are some things your aunt and uncle may not have told you about your family." "Like what?" "Like the fact that magic is very real," Gomez said, producing a coin from behind Harry's ear. "And some people, like your parents, were born with the ability to use it." Harry stared at them all. "But Aunt Petunia says, your aunt," Wednesday interrupted, "locks you in a cupboard and makes you wear clothes 5 times too big. Perhaps her judgment isn't sound." Harry fell silent, processing this. "Have strange things ever happened around you, Harry?" Morticia asked. "Things you couldn't explain? Perhaps when you were angry or frightened?" Harry hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Once, my hair grew back overnight after Aunt Petunia cut it all off. She was really angry. And another time, I ended up on the school roof when Dudley and his friends were chasing me. I don't know how I got up there." "Accidental magic," Gomez nodded knowledgeably. "Very common in young wizards." "I'm a wizard," Harry whispered. "Indeed you are, my boy," Gomez declared. "And from a very prestigious family, if I'm not mistaken. But why would Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon not tell me?" "Some normal people fear magic," Morticia explained. "They find it threatening, or they simply don't understand it. Your aunt and uncle seem to be such people." Harry sat with this information, his small face scrunched in concentration. "But if my parents were wizards, why am I living with Aunt Petunia? Don't I have wizard relatives?" The adults exchanged glances. "The circumstances of your parents' death were complicated," Morticia said carefully. "I believe certain decisions were made about your placement that may have had political implications. What my wife means," Gomez clarified, "is that sometimes grown-ups make choices they think are for the best, even when they're clearly not. Like locking a child in a car or a cupboard." Harry looked down at his plate. "So my aunt and uncle knew? About magic? About my parents being wizards?" "I suspect they did," Morticia said gently. Harry's small hands curled into fists. "They lied to me." "Yes," Wednesday said simply. "They did." Harry looked up, a new determination in his eyes. "I don't want to go back to the car. Or to them. Ever." An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Enid shifted in her seat. "Harry," she began gently, "I know you're upset, but we can't just, actually," Wednesday cut in, "we can. Wednesday, Morticia cautioned. No, Mother. Look at him. Look at how they've treated him. He's malnourished, wearing rags, and shows signs of long-term neglect. Wednesday's usually monotone voice had an edge to it. He's magical, he's being suppressed, and he's clearly miserable. He belongs here. Gomez tugged at his mustache thoughtfully. The girl has a point, Tish. We Addamses have always taken in the unwanted, the misunderstood, the peculiar. And he's definitely peculiar, Fester added helpfully. Morticia studied Harry with her penetrating gaze. Harry, is this truly what you want? To stay with us instead of returning to your relatives? Harry nodded vigorously. Yes, ma'am. Please. It won't be simple, she warned. There would be legal complications. Your aunt and uncle might resist. They won't want me anyway, Harry said with the sad certainty of a child who knows he's unwanted. They only took me because nobody else would. That, Gomez declared, slapping the table, is where they're wrong. We want you, my boy. Darling, Morticia cautioned, we should discuss this privately before making promises. What's to discuss? The boy needs a home that appreciates his uniqueness. We have plenty of room. Wednesday clearly has taken a shine to him, I find him scientifically interesting, Wednesday corrected. And Fester could use someone to assist with his experiments. I could teach him how to conduct electricity. Fester said excitedly. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Morticia said. First, we need to speak with his relatives. Harry's face fell. They'll just take me away and punish me for talking to strangers. No, they won't, Wednesday said firmly. Because I'll go with Mother and Father to speak with them. And me, Enid added quickly. My dad's a lawyer. I know some legal stuff. Gomez clapped his hands together. Excellent. We'll approach them tonight at the hotel. A family united in purpose. I believe a more subtle approach might be warranted, darling, Morticia suggested. Perhaps we should invite them here to discuss the matter. Even better. Lurch, prepare the formal parlor for guests. Gomez turned to Harry. Now, young man, why don't you explore the house with Wednesday and Enid while we arrange this meeting? Just don't go into the east wing, the alligators are molting. Harry's eyes widened. You have alligators? Among other things, Wednesday said, standing from the table. Come on. I'll show you my collection of poisons. Maybe we could start with something less lethal. Enid suggested, giving Wednesday a meaningful look. Like the conservatory? The plants there are carnivorous, Wednesday pointed out. But they don't usually eat children, Enid countered. Fine. The conservatory it is. As the children left, Morticia turned to her husband. Gomez, are we certain about this? Taking in a magical child, particularly one with Harry's history, will attract attention. That's precisely why we must do it, cara mia. The boy is clearly special, and those relatives of his are crushing his spirit. Can you imagine, locking a child in a cupboard? Even we never did that to Pugsley, and he tried to blow up the house at least once a week. I agree the situation is untenable, Morticia said. But there may be forces in the magical world who have vested interests in Harry's placement. Let them come. Gomez declared dramatically. The Addams family has faced down witch hunters, exorcists, and tax auditors. We can handle a few wizards. Fester nodded enthusiastically. And if they give us trouble, I've been working on a new explosive that's completely untraceable. Morticia sighed. Very well. Lurch, please call the hotel and leave a message for the Dursleys. Tell them we have their nephew and would like to discuss his future with them. Invite them for drinks at 9. Lurch groaned in acknowledgement and shuffled off to make the call. Now, Morticia continued, I suggest we consult Grandmama about protective measures. If Harry truly is who I think he is, we may need magical reinforcement for the house. Splendid idea, my dear. Gomez kissed her hand fervently. And I'll call cousin Itt. He has connections in the supernatural legal community. This is going to be fun, Fester grinned, rubbing his hands together. I haven't seen a good custody battle since that time the vampires and the werewolves fought over that orphan in Transylvania. Meanwhile, Wednesday and Enid had taken Harry to the conservatory, a glass-walled room filled with plants that seemed to move of their own accord. Vines reached toward them as they entered, and flowers turned to follow their movement. Wow, Harry breathed, staring at a large purple blossom that appeared to be breathing. I've never seen plants like these. Grandmama grows them for her potions, Wednesday explained. That one secretes a venom that causes temporary paralysis. She pointed to a different plant, resembling a Venus flytrap but large enough to swallow a cat. And that one digests small rodents. Sometimes larger ones if we feed it growth serum. Harry approached the plants with fascination rather than fear. Do they have names? Scientific classifications, yes. But if you mean pet names, no. They're plants, not puppies. I named mine, Enid admitted. The little yellow one that changes color with the moon cycle. I call her Sunshine. Wednesday gave her a withering look. What? It's ironic, Enid defended. Harry giggled, the first truly happy sound they'd heard from him. The sound made Enid smile and even Wednesday's mouth twitched slightly. Can I touch them? Harry asked. Some of them. Not the red ones, they cause rashes. Or the spotted ones, they spray acid when startled. Wednesday guided him toward a row of less threatening specimens. These are safe. Relatively. Harry carefully stroked a leaf that curled around his finger in response. His face lit up with wonder. It likes me. It's responding to your body heat, Wednesday explained. And possibly your magical signature. Harry looked up at her. Do you really think I'm magical? Like, a real wizard? The evidence suggests it, Wednesday replied. Your unexplained incidents, your parents' reputation, and that scar, it's not an ordinary mark. Harry touched his forehead self-consciously. What's special about it? It radiates a peculiar energy, Wednesday said. I can sense these things. Mother is better at it, she has genuine magical ability. Not like yours, but connected to darker forces. Are you magical too? Harry asked. In a way. The Addams family has always had a connection to the supernatural, though not in the same way as wand-wielding wizards like your parents. And I'm a werewolf. Enid added cheerfully. Well, part-time. I'm still learning to control my transformations. Harry's eyes widened. A real werewolf? With fur and howling at the moon and everything? Enid nodded. Yep. I get super strong and fast, and my hearing and smell get really good. That's how we found you, I heard you crying from inside the house. Wicked, Harry breathed. Then his expression turned anxious. But, if I stay here, won't my aunt and uncle be angry? What if they make me go back? They won't, Wednesday said with absolute certainty. My parents are very persuasive. And if necessary, we have other methods. Wednesday means legal methods, Enid clarified quickly. Totally legal. No torture chambers involved. Probably. A knock at the conservatory door interrupted them. Thing scuttled in, making gestures with his fingers. Thing says my parents want to speak with us, Wednesday translated. They've contacted your relatives, Harry. Harry's face paled. Are they coming to get me? They're coming to talk, Wednesday said. But remember what I promised, you won't go back to being locked in cupboards or cars. Not while I have anything to say about it. Back in the formal parlor, Morticia and Gomez were deep in conversation with a small, wizened woman stirring a bubbling cauldron that had been set up on an antique coffee table. Ah, children. Come in, Gomez called when he saw them. Harry, I'd like you to meet Grandmama, Morticia's mother, and our family witch. The old woman peered at Harry through thick glasses. So this is the Potter boy, she cackled. I can sense the power in him. Strong magic, old magic. She hobbled over and tilted Harry's chin up, examining his scar. Yes, very interesting. This was made by a killing curse. A what? Harry asked. Grandmama, Morticia cautioned, perhaps we should save the details for when he's a bit older. Nonsense. The boy should know his history, Grandmama protested, but she released Harry's chin. Another time, then. When there aren't so many delicate ears present. She shot a look at Enid, who pretended to be offended. My werewolf ears are super strong, actually. We've left a message for your aunt and uncle at the hotel, Morticia told Harry. They should be joining us shortly to discuss the situation. Harry unconsciously moved closer to Wednesday. What will you tell them? The truth, Gomez said simply. That we believe you would be better off with us. That we're prepared to give you a home where your abilities will be nurtured rather than suppressed. And if they disagree? Harry asked in a small voice. Gomez and Morticia exchanged glances. We have certain, persuasive arguments prepared, Morticia said delicately. Legal and financial incentives, Gomez added. Your uncle strikes me as a man who understands the language of money. And if that doesn't work, there's always the thumbscrews, Fester chimed in from the corner, where he had been quietly electrifying a light bulb with his fingertip. Uncle Fester is joking, Morticia said, though her tone suggested she wasn't entirely opposed to the idea. The doorbell rang, a long, mournful toll that echoed throughout the house. They're here, Wednesday said. Lurch appeared in the doorway. Guests, he announced in his deep, rumbling voice. Show them in, Lurch, Morticia instructed. Children, perhaps you should wait upstairs. No, Harry said, surprising everyone with his firmness. I want to stay. They're talking about me, so I should be here. Morticia nodded, respecting his decision. Very well. Moments later, Lurch ushered in 3 people, a large, mustached man with a purple face, a thin, horse-faced woman, and a pudgy boy who appeared to be about Harry's age but twice his size. What is the meaning of this? Vernon Dursley demanded, his mustache quivering with indignation. Your servant said you had our nephew. How dare you interfere with our family matters? Good evening, Mr. Dursley, Morticia said smoothly, rising to greet them. I'm Morticia Addams. This is my husband, Gomez, my brother-in-law, Fester, and my mother. You've met our butler, Lurch. Won't you sit down? The Dursleys remained standing, eyeing the Gothic decor with evident disgust. Petunia's gaze landed on Harry, who was partially hidden behind Wednesday. Boy! Come here at once, she snapped. Harry flinched but didn't move. You see how they've turned him against us already, Vernon blustered. We demand you return him immediately. We're his legal guardians. Guardians who lock a child in a car for hours? Wednesday asked, her voice cold. Who make him sleep in a cupboard? Vernon's face turned a deeper shade of purple. How we raise the boy is none of your business. He's been nothing but trouble since he was dumped on our doorstep. We took him in out of the goodness of our hearts, and this is the thanks we get. Interesting perspective, Gomez commented, lighting a cigar. Tell me, Mr. Dursley, are you aware that child neglect is a serious crime in America? Much more strictly prosecuted than in England, I believe. Vernon faltered slightly. We haven't neglected him. He's clothed, fed, in his cousin's cast-offs, Wednesday interrupted. And inadequately, based on his physical condition. Now see here, Vernon began, but Morticia cut him off. We're not interested in causing trouble, Mr. Dursley. Quite the opposite. We're offering a solution that could benefit everyone. She gestured to the sofa. Please, sit. Let's discuss this civilly. After a moment's hesitation, the Dursleys sat stiffly on the edge of the sofa, Dudley wedged between his parents. The boy was staring around the room with a mixture of fear and fascination, particularly at Fester, who was grinning at him in a decidedly unsettling way. "We understand you're here on business, Mr. Dursley," Gomez said conversationally. "Expanding your drill company to America, is it?" Vernon blinked, surprised by this knowledge. Yes. Grunnings is looking to establish a presence in the U.S. market. Fascinating industry, drills, Gomez continued, puffing his cigar. "I myself have some modest investments in the tool manufacturing sector. Perhaps there could be mutually beneficial opportunities there." Vernon's expression changed subtly, greed momentarily overriding his anger. "Investments, you say?" "Substantial ones," Gomez confirmed. "But business can wait. We're here to discuss Harry." Vernon's scowl returned. "There's nothing to discuss. The boy is coming back with us. End of story." "Mr. Dursley," Morticia said softly, "we're aware of Harry's unique heritage. And his magical abilities." The effect was immediate. Petunia gasped, and Vernon's face drained of color. "Don't use that word in front of my son," Petunia hissed. "We swore when we took him in that we'd stamp out that nonsense." "Stamp out?" Wednesday repeated, her dark eyes narrowing. "You mean suppress. Punish. Deny his true nature. It's unnatural." Vernon exploded. "We won't have it in our house. His parents got themselves blown up with that freakishness, and we won't let him bring the same down on us." Harry stared at his uncle, a dawning realization in his eyes. "Blown up? You said they died in a car crash." "They should have." Petunia snapped. "It would have been far more normal than what actually happened. My perfect sister and her worthless husband, murdered by some dark wizard, and then we're stuck with you and all the danger you bring with you." Harry took a step back, stunned by this revelation. "Murdered? By a dark wizard?" "Well, now you've done it," Gomez said, shaking his head. "The cat's out of the bag, so to speak. It's all your fault." Vernon jabbed a finger at the Addamses. "We were managing just fine until you interfered." "Locking a child in a cupboard is your definition of managing fine?" Enid asked incredulously. "Stay out of this, you pink-haired freak." Vernon snarled. A low growl escaped Enid's throat, and her eyes flashed yellow. Vernon recoiled. "I suggest," Morticia said with deadly calm, "that you refrain from insulting our guests, Mr. Dursley. Enid is a werewolf, and while her control is admirable for her age, provocation is unwise." Petunia clutched Dudley closer, her face a mask of horror. "Werewolf? What kind of people are you?" "The kind who appreciate uniqueness rather than punishing it," Wednesday replied. "The kind who would never lock Harry in a cupboard or a car or tell him his parents died in a crash when they were actually murdered." "Here's what we propose," Gomez said, steering the conversation back on track. "Harry stays with us. Permanently. We'll provide everything he needs, education, clothing, shelter, and guidance in developing his magical abilities." "Absolutely not," Vernon bellowed. "We won't allow it. In return," Gomez continued as if he hadn't been interrupted, "I'm prepared to offer financial compensation for your inconvenience. Say, a substantial investment in Grunning's American expansion. Perhaps enough to secure its success in this new market." Vernon's mouth opened and closed several times, his greed visibly warring with his outrage. "Additionally," Morticia added, "you would be free of the responsibility you clearly find so burdensome. No more worrying about accidental magic, no more explaining Harry's oddities to your friends and neighbors. Your life could return to what you consider normal." Petunia's expression had turned calculating. "And what about those people? The ones who left him with us? They said he had to stay with blood relatives. For protection." An interesting stipulation, Morticia acknowledged. However, there are magical means of extending such protections. My mother is quite skilled in such matters. Grandmama cackled from her place by the cauldron. Blood magic can be transferred, modified. The boy would be safer here than with people who wish him ill. We don't wish him ill, Petunia protested weakly. We just don't want his abnormality. That, Wednesday said flatly, is wishing him ill. Denying his true nature is the same as denying him air to breathe. Vernon was still focused on Gomez's offer. This investment, how substantial are we talking? Enough to guarantee Grunnings becomes the leading drill supplier in North America within 5 years, Gomez said smoothly. I have connections, Mr. Dursley. Very influential ones. The room fell silent as the Dursleys considered this offer. Harry watched his relatives with a mixture of hope and fear, unconsciously leaning closer to Wednesday. What about the legal aspects? Petunia finally asked. We're his legal guardians. We can't just give him away. Leave that to me, Gomez declared. I have an excellent family lawyer who specializes in unique custody arrangements. By morning, we'll have the necessary paperwork drawn up. All you'll need to do is sign. Vernon and Petunia exchanged glances, some unspoken communication passing between them. And what about the wizard authorities? Petunia pressed. The ones who left him with us. They need not know immediately, Morticia said. By the time they discover the change, it will be a fait accompli. And we are quite capable of defending our family from bureaucratic interference. Vernon stood abruptly. We need to discuss this privately. Of course, Morticia nodded. Lurch will show you to the library where you can have some privacy. The Dursleys followed Lurch out of the room, Dudley shooting one last curious look at Harry before the door closed behind them. As soon as they were gone, Harry turned to the Addamses. Do you really want me to stay? Forever? Of course, my boy. Gomez declared. You're exactly the sort of child the Addams family welcomes, unique, magical, with a touch of darkness in your past. Why, you'll fit right in. But what if they say no? Harry worried. They won't, Wednesday said confidently. Your uncle values money too much, and your aunt wants nothing more than to be rid of the reminder of her sister's magical abilities. Harry's expression fell slightly at this blunt assessment, but he nodded, recognizing the truth in her words. Besides, Enid added, putting an arm around his shoulders, if they try to take you back, I'll go full wolf on them. See how they like that. This brought a small smile back to Harry's face. After about 10 minutes, the library door opened, and the Dursleys returned. Vernon's expression was a mixture of relief and greed, while Petunia looked both anxious and determined. We've decided, Vernon announced, to accept your proposal. Under certain conditions. Name them, Gomez said, twirling his mustache. First, the investment must be substantial enough to guarantee Grunning's success in America. I want that in writing, with specifics. Vernon straightened his tie self-importantly. Second, this arrangement must be legally binding and completely confidential. We don't want questions from neighbors or authorities. Easily arranged, Gomez nodded. Third, Petunia added, if those wizard people come looking for him, you deal with them. We wash our hands of the whole business. We wouldn't have it any other way, Morticia assured her. And finally, Vernon said, we never want to hear from any of you again. No visits, no phone calls, no contact whatsoever. The boy is your problem now. Harry flinched at being referred to as a problem, but Wednesday's hand on his shoulder steadied him. Agreed, Gomez said firmly. Though I would suggest one amendment, Harry keeps the Potter name. I assume you prefer he not publicly connect himself with the Dursley family? Vernon nodded quickly. Absolutely. No connection. Then we have a deal. Gomez extended his hand, which Vernon shook after only a moment's hesitation. My lawyer will contact you at your hotel tomorrow morning with the paperwork. Once signed, the first installment of the investment will be transferred immediately. Just like that? Harry whispered to Wednesday. They're giving me up for money. Did you expect them to fight for you out of love? She asked bluntly. Harry shook his head. No. But, it still feels strange. Good strange or bad strange? Harry thought for a moment. Good strange, I think. Like when I ended up on the school roof. Scary but, right, somehow. Wednesday nodded in understanding. That's the Addams way. Embracing the strange. As the adults finalized the details, Dudley cautiously approached Harry. Are you really staying here? He asked, eyeing the gothic surroundings with a mixture of fear and envy. Harry nodded. Looks that way. With these weird people? They're not weird, Harry defended. They're just different. And they want me. Dudley seemed to struggle with this concept. But what about your cupboard? And your chores? Who's going to do them now? Not me, Harry said, a new confidence in his voice. Not ever again. Dudley frowned, clearly trying to process this disruption to his worldview. Will you have to wear black all the time like her? He nodded toward Wednesday. I can wear whatever I want, Harry replied, realizing the truth of this statement as he said it. I won't have to wear your old clothes anymore. This seemed to bother Dudley more than anything else. But those are good clothes. Mum says you should be grateful. Dudley, Wednesday interrupted, your clothes would fit a small elephant. Harry deserves better. Dudley puffed up indignantly, but before he could retort, Vernon called him. Dudley. We're leaving. Come along. With a final confused look at Harry, Dudley rejoined his parents. The Dursleys made their way to the door, not once looking back at the child they had raised, however reluctantly, for 3 years. Just as they reached the threshold, Harry called out, Uncle Vernon. Aunt Petunia. They paused, turning slightly. I hope you get everything you want, Harry said, his voice small but clear. Vernon grunted awkwardly, Petunia gave a stiff nod, and then they were gone. The sound of the front door closing echoed through the house. Harry stood very still, a complex mixture of emotions on his young face. Well, Gomez said, breaking the silence, that's that. Welcome to the family, Harry Potter. Not quite yet, Morticia cautioned. There's still the paperwork, and we should prepare for potential complications from the wizarding authorities. Legalities, Gomez waved dismissively. Mere formalities. The boy is an Addams in spirit already. Can't you see it, Tish? The shadow in his eyes, the potential for glorious darkness. I do see it, Morticia agreed, studying Harry with her penetrating gaze. There's something very special about you, Harry. Something beyond ordinary magic. Harry shuffled his feet, unused to positive attention. I don't feel very special. That's because those dreadful people never let you be who you truly are, Morticia said, placing a cool hand on his cheek. But that changes tonight. First order of business, Gomez declared, a proper bedroom. No more cupboards for you, my boy. We have several excellent chambers available. There's the tower room with the resident bats, or the dungeon suite with the medieval aesthetic, or perhaps the room next to Wednesday's laboratory. The guest room will suffice for tonight, darling, Morticia interjected. Harry has had quite enough excitement for one day. Of course, you're right as always, cara mia. Gomez kissed her hand passionately. Tomorrow we can show him the full range of options. And get him proper clothing. Can't have an Addams in hand-me-downs. I'm really staying? Harry asked, still sounding disbelieving. Forever. Forever is a very long time, Wednesday noted. But yes, for the foreseeable future, you're staying. Harry's face broke into a genuine smile, lighting up his eyes in a way that transformed his whole appearance. Thank you, he whispered. Don't thank us yet, Wednesday cautioned. Living with the Addams family isn't always easy. There are dangers, peculiarities, occasional explosions. And that's just at breakfast. Fester chuckled. It sounds brilliant, Harry said sincerely. Enid yawned suddenly, covering her mouth. Sorry. Werewolf metabolism. I get tired after big emotional moments. It is getting late, Morticia observed. Children, I think it's time for bed. Harry, you'll stay in the guest room tonight. Enid, would you show him the way? Sure thing, Mrs. Addams. Enid took Harry's hand. Come on, Harry. You look about ready to fall over. Harry did look exhausted, the excitement of the day catching up with him. He allowed Enid to lead him toward the stairs, but paused to look back at the Addams family, his new family. Good night, he said shyly. Good night, Harry, Morticia replied with a gentle smile. Sleep well. Tomorrow begins your new life. With considerably fewer cupboards, Wednesday added. As Enid led Harry upstairs, Morticia turned to her husband. Gomez, I fear we may have invited more complexity into our lives than we anticipated. Complexity? Nonsense. Gomez declared. The boy needs us, and we need him. It's as simple as that. The wizarding authorities won't see it that way, Grandmama warned, stirring her cauldron. The Potter boy isn't just any magical child. He's the boy who lived. The what now? Fester asked. The only person ever to survive the killing curse, Grandmama explained. Cast by the darkest wizard of the age, no less. Some say Harry destroyed this wizard, though I have my doubts about that. Either way, he's famous in magical circles. Important. There are those who will come looking for him. Let them come. Gomez said dramatically. The Addams family has faced down all manner of supernatural threat. What's one more? This is different, Morticia cautioned. We're not just talking about angry villagers with pitchforks or exorcists with holy water. The wizarding world has its own government, its own laws, its own considerable power. And its own weaknesses, Wednesday added, having listened silently until now. They rely too heavily on wands, on spoken spells, on established methods. We don't. The girl has a point, Grandmama cackled. Wizard magic is powerful but rigid. Addams magic is, fluid. Unpredictable. And often immune to conventional counterspells. We'll need to prepare nonetheless, Morticia said. Strengthen the house protections, contact our magical allies, ensure the legal adoption is ironclad in both the mundane and magical worlds. I'll handle the legal end, Gomez volunteered. Cousin ITT knows people who can make anything official. And I'll brew protection potions, Grandmama offered. Blood wards, boundary spells, the works. I can make defensive explosives. Fester said enthusiastically. I'll research Harry's background, Wednesday said. The more we know about his history and magical significance, the better prepared we'll be. Morticia nodded approvingly. The Addams family united in purpose. As it should be. Upstairs, Enid had shown Harry to the guest room and helped him get settled. The enormous four-poster bed made him look even smaller than he was. This bed is bigger than my cupboard, Harry marveled, running his hand over the black silk sheets. Wait till you see Wednesday's room, Enid said. She has an Iron Maiden next to her dresser. She says it's for meditation, but I think she just likes to hear herself echo inside it. Harry giggled, then quickly covered his mouth as if afraid to make too much noise. Hey, it's okay to laugh here, Enid reassured him. The Addamses are weird, but in the best way. They celebrate the stuff most people are afraid of. Like magic? Harry asked. Exactly like magic. And werewolves, and ghosts, and all sorts of cool, spooky things. Enid sat on the edge of the bed. You know, when I first found out I was a werewolf, I was super freaked out. My family's all about brightness and positivity, and suddenly I'm growing fangs and howling at the moon. I thought they'd hate me. Did they? Enid shook her head. Nah. They were kinda confused at first, but they still loved me. They just don't really get it, you know. That's why I come here sometimes. The Addamses get it. They celebrate the darkness instead of trying to fix it. Harry nodded thoughtfully. My aunt and uncle always tried to fix me. Make me normal. Normal is overrated, Enid declared. Trust me, I've tried it. Being yourself is way more fun. Even if yourself is a freak. Harry asked in a small voice. Especially then, Enid said firmly. Look at Wednesday, she's probably the freakiest person I know, and she's totally confident about it. That's why everyone respects her, even when they're scared of her. Harry thought about this. I'd like to be confident like that. Not scared all the time. You will be, Enid promised. The Addamses have that effect on people. They help you find your inner weirdo and let it shine. This drew another smile from Harry. He yawned widely, his eyelids drooping. You should sleep, Enid said, standing up. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. Knowing the Addamses, probably literally big, like, giant spider big or something. Enid? Harry asked as she reached the door. Will you still be here tomorrow? You won't go home. I'm staying all weekend, she assured him. And I'll visit lots after that. You're stuck with me, buddy. Harry nodded, relief evident on his face. Good night, Enid. Night, Harry. Sweet nightmares, that's what Wednesday always says instead of sweet dreams. Addams' humor. Enid flashed him a final smile before closing the door. Left alone, Harry looked around the grand, Gothic bedroom that was now his, at least for tonight. The walls were hung with tapestries depicting scenes from what appeared to be medieval battles. A large wardrobe stood against one wall, carved with images of fantastic creatures. The windows were tall and arched, with heavy velvet curtains that blocked out the night. It was nothing like his cupboard under the stairs. Nothing like anything he had ever known. Harry climbed under the covers, sinking into the softness of the mattress. It felt strange after years of sleeping on a thin, lumpy cot, but not unpleasant. He removed his taped glasses and placed them on the bedside table, next to an ornate candelabra with black candles. As exhaustion overtook him, his last conscious thought was to wonder if he would wake up back in his cupboard, this whole evening nothing but a wonderful dream. But somehow, deep down, he knew this was real. His life had changed forever the moment Enid heard him crying in the dark. And for the first time in his memory, Harry Potter fell asleep without fear. Chapter 2, Welcome to the Family. Harry woke to something tickling his face. He blinked, fumbled for his glasses, and nearly jumped out of his skin. A disembodied thing, was perched on his pillow, gently tapping his cheek. Gah! Harry scrambled backward against the headboard. Thing raised one finger in what seemed like an apologetic gesture, then pointed toward a neatly folded stack of clothes at the foot of the bed. Oh, Harry said, catching his breath. Good morning, Thing. Are these, for me? Thing gave a thumbs up, then scuttled to the bedside table where he tapped a small brass bell. Seconds later, Lurch's heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. The door creaked open, and the butler's massive frame filled the doorway. Breakfast, he groaned. 15 minutes. Thank you, Harry replied, still getting used to the butler's appearance. Lurch nodded and withdrew, closing the door with surprising gentleness. Harry examined the clothes Thing had left, black shorts, a gray button-up shirt, and a small dark vest. They looked brand new and exactly his size. He changed quickly, marveling at wearing clothes that actually fit. The fabric felt strange against his skin after years of drowning in Dudley's cast-offs. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Harry? You decent? Enid's cheerful voice called. Yes, come in. Enid burst in wearing bright purple pajamas covered in rainbow stars. Morning. Whoa, look at you. Very Addams chic. Where did these come from? Harry asked, running his hand down the vest. Mrs. Addams has clothes in every size stashed somewhere. She says one never knows when a long-lost relative might appear covered in grave dirt without suitable attire. Enid's imitation of Morticia's elegant drawl made Harry giggle. Do I look okay? He asked, suddenly self-conscious. You look like you belong, Enid said. Which you do. Come on, breakfast here is an experience. They headed downstairs, navigating the mansion's twisting corridors. Daylight did little to brighten the Addams home, with heavy curtains blocking most windows and candles providing the main illumination. I still can't believe this is happening, Harry said. Last night feels like a dream. A good dream or a nightmare? Enid asked. Harry considered this. Good. Definitely good. Well, get ready for the full Addams experience, Enid said as they approached the dining room. And whatever Grandmama offers you, just take a tiny bite at first. Trust me on this. The dining room was already buzzing with activity. Gomez stood on the table fencing with an invisible opponent, while Morticia arranged a vase of thorny black roses with the flowers cut off. Wednesday sat reading a book titled Venoms of the Amazon, and Grandmama stirred something bubbling in a cauldron at the sideboard. Ah! The boy arrives. Gomez leapt from the table, landing with a flourish. Harry, my lad. Sleep well? No nightmares? Pity, they're quite informative. I slept great, thank you, sir, Harry replied. Sir. No, call me Gomez. Or Uncle Gomez if you prefer. We're family now. He clapped Harry on the shoulder. Thank you. Gomez. The name felt strange in Harry's mouth, but the warm smile he received in return made it worthwhile. Harry, how wonderful to see you this morning, Morticia glided toward him, examining his outfit. The clothes suit you perfectly. Black is so becoming on children. Thank you for the clothes, Mrs. Addams. Morticia, please, she corrected gently. We don't stand on formality here. Except on formal occasions, of course, which involve considerably more ceremony, usually with ritual daggers. Harry wasn't sure how to respond to that, but was saved by Grandmama calling everyone to the table. Breakfast is served. Get it while it's still squirming. Harry approached the table cautiously. Serving dishes contained what appeared to be normal breakfast foods, but something seemed off about all of them. The scrambled eggs had an unsettling purple tint, the bacon was nearly black, and the toast seemed to be moving slightly. Don't worry, Wednesday said, noticing his hesitation. Nothing's poisonous. Not fatally, anyway. Wednesday, Morticia chided gently. Fine. Nothing's poisonous at all, Wednesday amended, though she didn't sound entirely convincing. Harry took a small serving of eggs, which turned out to taste surprisingly normal despite their color. The bacon was heavily smoked but edible, and the toast, once he gathered the courage to try it, had a strange but pleasant sourdough flavor. So, Harry, Gomez said between bites, we have a full day planned. Tours, wardrobes, paperwork, the delightful bureaucracy of adding a new Addams. We've contacted our lawyer, Morticia added. He's drawing up the adoption papers as we speak. The Dursleys have already signed the preliminary agreements. That fast? Harry asked, surprised. Money is a powerful motivator, Wednesday said. Especially for the greedy. What your sister means, Morticia translated, is that your uncle was quite eager to secure the business arrangement your presence here facilitates. They really don't want me back? Harry asked quietly, despite already knowing the answer. The table fell silent for a moment. Their loss, Gomez declared finally, is our extraordinary gain. I've never seen someone with your potential, my boy. The darkness in your aura practically sings. My darkness? Harry looked confused. Your magical signature, Morticia explained. It's quite unique. Powerful, with a shadow quality that the Addams family finds particularly appealing. Is that good? It's exceptional, Wednesday said matter-of-factly. Most wizards have bright, obvious signatures. Yours has depth. Complexity. Like that scar, Grandmama added, pointing to Harry's forehead with her spoon. Dark magic, that is. Very interesting. Harry touched his scar self-consciously. My aunt said I got it in a car crash that killed my parents. But last night you said they were murdered by a dark wizard. The adults exchanged glances. Perhaps a tour of the house after breakfast? Morticia suggested smoothly. Harry should get acquainted with his new home before we delve into magical history. Excellent idea, cara mia. Gomez kissed her hand passionately. I'll show him the dungeons. The battlements. The secret passages. I want to take him to my laboratory, Wednesday said. I need to test his magical reactivity. And I can show him the cool stuff, like the playroom and the swamp out back, Enid chimed in. You'll have time for everything, Morticia assured them. Harry isn't going anywhere. The rest of breakfast passed with Gomez telling outlandish family stories that Harry wasn't entirely sure were jokes. He described relatives who could remove their heads, cousins who lived underwater, and an uncle who had supposedly been struck by lightning 49 times. Fester holds the family record at 57, though he does cheat by using metal hats. After breakfast, the tour began in earnest. Gomez took the lead, bounding through corridors with infectious enthusiasm. This is the main hall, where we hold our annual séances, he explained, gesturing grandly. The spirits find the acoustics particularly accommodating. Real ghosts? Harry asked. Of course. The Addams family has excellent relations with the deceased. Some of our best friends are no longer with us, though that doesn't stop them from visiting regularly. They moved through the house at whirlwind pace. The library contained books with titles like Demonic Summoning for Beginners and 101 Uses for Nightshade. The music room featured an enormous pipe organ and various medieval instruments that appeared to be made from human bones. The conservatory was filled with carnivorous plants that snapped playfully as they passed. And this, Gomez declared, throwing open a heavy wooden door, is the playroom. Harry peered inside and gasped. The room was enormous, filled with the most bizarre collection of toys he'd ever seen. A full-sized guillotine stood in one corner, a rack of swords and daggers in another. A miniature electric chair hummed ominously, while what appeared to be an Iron Maiden stood partially open, revealing velvet cushions inside. This is all, for playing? Harry asked uncertainly. Of course. Every child needs their recreation. Wednesday practically lived in that Iron Maiden at your age. Said the spikes helped her think. The points focused the mind, Wednesday confirmed, appearing beside them. Harry wandered into the room, drawn to a large wooden chest. He opened it cautiously to find it filled with oddly shaped dolls. My headless Marie Antoinettes, Wednesday explained. And my guillotine for removing the heads of dolls that still have them. Do you want to try it? Enid whispered to Harry. It's actually pretty fun. Before Harry could answer, Gomez was already ushering them onward. So much to see, so little time. To the dungeons. The dungeons were exactly what Harry imagined dungeons should be, dark, damp, with chains hanging from the walls and various medieval torture devices on display. We maintain them for historical accuracy, Morticia explained as they toured the space. And the occasional family game night. What kind of games? Harry couldn't help asking. Escape the Inquisitor is a family favorite, Wednesday replied. The current record is 4 minutes, 12 seconds. That's impressive. Harry said uncertainly. Not really. Grandmama was having an off day. She usually manages under 3 minutes. They visited the cemetery next, where generations of Addamses lay buried beneath elaborate tombstones and small mausoleums. Harry was surprised to find the family discussing the deceased relatives as if they were merely living in another part of the house. "Great-Aunt Lavinia simply adores the nightshade we planted on her grave," Morticia said. "The blooms have been exceptional this year." "Can she see them?" Harry asked. "Of course," Wednesday replied. "The dead are very aware of their surroundings. They just lack the physical means to express their appreciation. Usually. After the cemetery came the swamp, a murky, fog-covered expanse at the edge of the property. Home to our pet alligator, Snappy, Gomez explained. Named him that after he took 2 of my fingers as a hatchling. They grew back, of course, Addams' resilience. Your fingers grew back? Harry asked, wide-eyed. Metaphorically speaking, Morticia clarified. Gomez is prone to poetic exaggeration. The doctors were able to reattach them quite successfully. Harry nodded, though he wasn't entirely convinced she was telling the truth. By lunchtime, Harry's head was spinning with all he'd seen. They ate in the conservatory, surrounded by plants that occasionally tried to steal food from their plates. What do you think of your new home? Morticia asked as Harry dodged a questing vine. It's amazing, Harry said honestly. I've never seen anything like it. Few have, Wednesday said. Most people who see the Addams estate either run away screaming or never leave at all. She means as guests, Enid added quickly, seeing Harry's expression. Not, like, permanent residents of the cemetery. Usually, Wednesday murmured. After lunch, Gomez disappeared to handle legal matters while Morticia went to oversee the preparation of Harry's permanent bedroom. This left Harry with Wednesday and Enid. I want to show you my laboratory, Wednesday said. It wasn't a request. Can we do something fun first? Enid pleaded. He just got here, and you already want to poke him with weird science stuff. My experiments are fun, Wednesday replied flatly. For you, maybe. Remember when you tested my werewolf reflexes by throwing knives at me? You caught most of them. Most. Harry couldn't help laughing at their bickering, which drew surprised looks from both girls. What's funny? Wednesday asked. You too, Harry said. You're like sisters. Fortunately not biologically, Wednesday replied, but there was the faintest hint of warmth in her voice. They compromised by heading to the playroom first. Enid showed Harry how to properly drop the guillotine blade, it's all in the wrist, while Wednesday methodically dissected a stuffed bear to improve its anatomical accuracy. Why is everything so deadly? Harry asked as he examined a miniature electric chair. The Addams family believes in preparing children for the realities of life, Wednesday explained, stitching a small organ into her bear. And death. Especially death. My family's the opposite, Enid said. Everything's rainbows and puppies and let's not talk about anything uncomfortable. That's why I like coming here. It's honest. Honest about death, Harry clarified. About everything, Wednesday corrected. The world is dark and dangerous and fascinating. Most adults try to hide that from children. The Addams family embraces it. Harry considered this as he explored the room. It was strange, but there was something oddly comforting about the Addams approach. At the Dursleys, he'd lived with constant fear, fear of punishment, fear of making mistakes, fear of his own strange abilities. Here, those fears were acknowledged rather than suppressed. Ready for the laboratory now? Wednesday asked after they'd spent an hour in the playroom. Harry nodded, genuinely curious. Wednesday's laboratory made the playroom look tame by comparison. Located in the east wing of the mansion, it resembled a mad scientist's dream, bubbling beakers, ancient-looking equipment, jars containing specimens Harry couldn't identify, and a library of books with ominous titles. This is where I conduct my experiments, Wednesday said with unmistakable pride. Potions, dissections, occasional reanimations. Reanimations? Harry repeated. Nothing major yet. Just insects and small rodents. The larger subjects require more voltage than I'm currently allowed to use. Harry wasn't sure if she was joking. What did you want to test about me? He asked, changing the subject. Your magical reactivity, Wednesday replied, gesturing to a workbench set up with various vials and instruments. Different types of magic respond to different stimuli. I want to see what triggers yours. Is it safe? Harry asked hesitantly. Relatively. That's not very reassuring, Enid muttered. Fine. Yes, it's safe. I've tested it on Enid multiple times. And I only grew an extra finger that one time, Enid added, then laughed at Harry's expression. I'm kidding. Mostly. The test turned out to be less alarming than Harry had feared. Wednesday had him hold various objects, crystals, herbs, small bones, while she observed his reactions and took notes in a leather-bound journal. Interesting, she murmured as a clear crystal turned slightly cloudy in Harry's hand. Your magical signature is strongest with items tied to protection and transformation. What does that mean? Harry asked. It means your innate magic is defensive and adaptable, Wednesday explained. Some wizards have affinities for elements, others for specific magical disciplines. Yours appears versatile but particularly strong in self-preservation. Probably helped you survive whatever gave you that scar, Enid suggested. Wednesday nodded in agreement. The magical residue is concentrated there, but it's throughout your aura. Like you've been saturated in a powerful spell. Is that bad? Harry asked. It's unusual, Wednesday replied. And in this house, unusual is good. After the testing, they took a break in the kitchen, where Grandmama was brewing something that filled the room with multicolored smoke. Just in time, she cackled when she saw them. I need a taste tester for my youth potion. Not again, Wednesday said. Last time Uncle Fester drank that, he reverted to infancy for 3 days. I've adjusted the formula, Grandmama insisted, stirring the cauldron. This batch will only reduce age by a few years. Harry's already 4, Enid pointed out. You want him disappearing altogether? Grandmama considered this. Good point. Well, how about some normal cookies instead? Just baked them this morning. She produced a plate of what appeared to be chocolate chip cookies, though the chips had an odd bluish tint. What's in them? Harry asked cautiously. Oh, the usual, flour, sugar, butter, spider eggs, chocolate. Spider eggs? Harry repeated. Just a few. For protein. Growing boys need protein. To everyone's surprise, Harry reached for a cookie. I've never been allowed sweets before, he explained, taking a tentative bite. The cookie actually tasted good, sweet and chocolatey with a slightly nutty flavor. Harry didn't ask about the occasional crunchy bits. I like your cooking, he told Grandmama, who beamed at him. Finally. Someone with proper appreciation for culinary innovation. She pressed the entire plate into his hands. Take them all. There's plenty more where that came from. As the afternoon progressed, Harry grew increasingly comfortable with the Addams mansion and its bizarre inhabitants. Thing taught him a simple card trick, Lurch showed him how to play a haunting melody on the harpsichord, and Fester demonstrated how to light a bulb by putting it in his mouth, though Harry's attempt was understandably unsuccessful. By early evening, Harry had almost forgotten that less than 24 hours ago, he'd been locked in a car across the street. The Addams mansion was beginning to feel like home, a strange, occasionally terrifying home, but one where he was wanted and his differences were celebrated rather than punished. They were in the library, where Wednesday was showing Harry a book on magical creatures, when it happened. Harry reached for a volume on a high shelf, and when his fingers couldn't quite touch it, the book suddenly flew from the shelf directly into his hand. Everyone froze. Did I do that? Harry whispered, staring at the book in his hand. Accidental magic, Wednesday confirmed, looking pleased. Your first display since arriving here. But I didn't say any magic words or use a wand or anything. Wizarding children often display magic instinctively before they learn formal methods, Wednesday explained. It's a sign of your natural ability. Far from being frightened, Harry felt a surge of excitement. At the Dursleys, such incidents had been met with punishment and lockdowns in his cupboard. Here, Wednesday was looking at him with something approaching approval. Can you do it again? Enid asked eagerly. I don't know how I did it the first time, Harry admitted. Try wanting something just out of reach, Wednesday suggested. Your magic responded to need. Harry spotted another book on a distant shelf. He focused on it, imagining it coming to him, wanting it to move. Nothing happened. You're trying too hard, Wednesday observed. Magic isn't forced. It flows. Harry relaxed, simply thinking about how nice it would be to see that book up close. To his astonishment, the volume trembled, then slid from the shelf and floated wobbly across the room, landing with a soft thump at his feet. Wicked, Enid breathed. Impressive control for your age, Wednesday noted, making another entry in her journal. Most children your age cause explosions or transformations. Directed movement suggests precision. Harry beamed with pride. For the first time in his life, his freakishness was being praised instead of condemned. The moment was interrupted by Lurch appearing at the library door. Visitors, he announced in his rumbling voice. Already? Wednesday frowned. Who is it, Lurch? Magic people, Lurch replied ominously. Harry's smile vanished, replaced by apprehension. Are they coming to take me away? No, Wednesday said firmly. No one's taking you anywhere. Morticia appeared behind Lurch, her expression serious. Children, please come to the drawing room. It seems Harry's magic has attracted attention more quickly than we anticipated. They followed Morticia through the mansion to the formal drawing room, where Gomez stood in conversation with a tall, imposing woman in emerald green robes and a pointed hat. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and she wore rectangular spectacles that did little to soften her stern expression. Ah, here they are. Gomez announced cheerfully. Harry, come meet our guest. This is Professor Minerva McGonagall from Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Harry approached cautiously, Wednesday and Enid flanking him protectively. Mr. Potter, Professor McGonagall said, her Scottish accent evident. It is unexpected to find you here, of all places. Hello, Harry replied quietly. Professor McGonagall works at the magical school your parents attended, Morticia explained. She's here because your recent magic registered with the British Ministry's monitoring systems. Quite strongly, in fact, McGonagall added, studying Harry with piercing eyes. Accidental magic is common in children your age, Mr. Potter, but rarely with enough power to trigger international detection charms. Is he in trouble? Enid asked defensively. No, Miss Sinclair. Enid Sinclair. I'm a werewolf, she added, as if daring the professor to object. McGonagall merely raised an eyebrow. Indeed. And no, Mr. Potter is not in trouble. I am, however, concerned about his sudden change in residence. Mr. Potter is supposed to be living with his aunt and uncle in Surrey, England. They didn't want me, Harry said plainly. They locked me in cupboards and cars and called me a freak. McGonagall's expression softened slightly. I see. And how did you come to be with the Addams family? I heard him crying, Enid explained. My werewolf hearing picked it up. He was locked in a car across the street while his relatives attended some boring business dinner. We rescued him. And have since initiated formal adoption proceedings, Gomez added, twirling his mustache. All perfectly legal, I assure you. I'm afraid it's not that simple, Mr. Addams, McGonagall said. Harry Potter's guardianship was arranged by Albus Dumbledore himself, with specific magical protections tied to his blood relatives. Ah, the famous blood wards, Morticia nodded. My mother has been examining them. They're quite elegant, if somewhat rudimentary. Rudimentary? McGonagall repeated, sounding affronted. Those wards were cast by one of the greatest wizards of our time. And are based on a principle any competent blood which understands, came Grandmama's voice as she entered the room. The protection requires family love to function properly. There was none in that household. McGonagall's lips pressed into a thin line. Nevertheless, Dumbledore was quite specific about, Dumbledore is not here, Wednesday interrupted coolly. And from what we've learned, his decisions led to Harry being abused for 3 years. Abused is a serious accusation, young lady, McGonagall replied sharply. Go on, Harry, Wednesday prompted. Tell her where you slept. Harry looked down at his shoes. In the cupboard under the stairs, he said quietly. And sometimes they locked me in for days when strange things happened. And I never got new clothes, only Dudley's old ones. And sometimes there wasn't food if I did something freakish. Each word seemed to hit McGonagall like a physical blow. Her stern demeanor cracked, revealing genuine concern. I had no idea, she said softly. Albus assured us you were being well cared for. Did he check? Wednesday asked bluntly. McGonagall's silence was answer enough. The boy stays with us, Gomez declared firmly. We can provide the safety he needs, along with acceptance of his magical heritage. I'm afraid I don't have the authority to make such a decision, McGonagall replied. This will need to be addressed by Dumbledore and the Ministry of Magic. And until then? Morticia asked. McGonagall surveyed the room, Gomez standing protectively near Harry, Wednesday's cold, calculating gaze, Enid's barely contained werewolf energy, Morticia's elegant poise masking formidable power, and Grandmama's ancient, knowing eyes. She seemed to come to a decision. Until then, I see no immediate reason to remove Mr. Potter from what appears to be a caring, if unconventional, environment. She turned to Harry. Mr. Potter, are you being well treated here? Harry nodded vigorously. They're wonderful. They gave me my own room and clothes that fit and food whenever I want it. And they don't mind when I do magic. They like it. Something in McGonagall's expression softened further. Very well. I shall inform the headmaster of the situation. However, I must insist on regular check-ins to ensure your well-being and magical development. We welcome any opportunity to demonstrate our commitment to Harry's flourishing, Morticia said smoothly. Perhaps tea next week? We can discuss educational options. Educational options? McGonagall repeated. Harry will need magical instruction, Morticia explained. While we understand he has a place reserved at Hogwarts for the future, his immediate magical development shouldn't be neglected. The Addams family has its own magical traditions, Gomez added proudly. Different from your wand-waving variety, but effective nonetheless. McGonagall looked like she wanted to object but thought better of it. I shall return next Friday, then. With Dumbledore, most likely. We'll look forward to it, Morticia said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. After extracting a promise from Harry to stay out of trouble, McGonagall departed, disappearing with a sharp crack from the front porch. Well! Gomez exclaimed once she was gone. That went better than expected. No hexes, no transformations, barely even a raised voice. She'll be back with reinforcements, Wednesday predicted. This isn't over. No, it's not, Morticia agreed. But we've gained time to strengthen our position. Gomez, where do we stand with the legal proceedings? Moving along splendidly, cara mia. The Dursleys have signed the preliminary custody transfer. Our lawyers are pushing for expedited processing given the circumstances of Harry's previous living situation. Will they take me away? Harry asked, the fear evident in his voice. No, Harry, Morticia said firmly, kneeling to his level. The Addams family protects its own. You're one of us now, and we won't let anyone take you against your will. Even powerful wizards like Dumbledore. Harry pressed. Especially them, Wednesday said. Wizards rely too heavily on standardized magic. They don't understand the power of family curses, blood oaths, and ancestral bindings. What Wednesday means, Morticia translated, seeing Harry's confusion, is that we have our own forms of protection that the wizarding world tends to underestimate. And if all else fails, we can always barricade the mansion. Fester chimed in, appearing suddenly from behind a suit of armor. I've been perfecting a new explosive that turns intruders into chickens. Temporarily. Usually. That won't be necessary, Uncle Fester, Morticia said diplomatically. We'll resolve this through proper channels. But keep working on that potion, Gomez whispered to his brother. Just in case. The tension of McGonagall's visit gradually dissipated as the evening progressed. Dinner was a lively affair, with Gomez regaling Harry with tales of Addams' ancestors who had tangled with wizards throughout history. Great-great-grandfather Alphonse once challenged a dark wizard to a duel, he recounted enthusiastically. The wizard brought a wand, Alphonse brought a cannon. Most unfair matchup, for the wizard. After dinner, they gathered in the parlor where Lurch played mournful melodies on the harpsichord while Morticia knitted what appeared to be a tiny straitjacket. For your new voodoo doll, she explained when Harry asked. Every Addams should have one. We'll work on it together this weekend. By the time bedtime arrived, Harry was exhausted but happier than he could ever remember being. The day had been overwhelming in the best possible way, filled with discoveries, acceptance, and a growing sense of belonging. Morticia showed him to his new permanent bedroom, a spacious chamber in the east wing with a four-poster bed, antique furniture, and a window seat overlooking the cemetery. We thought you might appreciate the view, she said as Harry gazed out at the moonlit gravestones. It's quite peaceful, especially when the ghosts come out for their midnight stroll. Real ghosts? Harry asked, both nervous and excited. Of course, dear. They're quite friendly, though somewhat mournful. Death affects everyone differently. She brushed a lock of hair from his forehead, her cool fingers gentle against his scar. How are you feeling, Harry? Truly. Harry considered the question. Happy, he said finally. And scared too, I guess. About those wizard people coming back. Fear is natural, Morticia assured him. The Addams family embraces fear, we invite it to dinner, dance with it in the moonlight, make it our companion rather than our master. Harry nodded, though he wasn't sure he fully understood. What if they make me go back to the Dursleys, he asked, voicing his deepest fear. They won't, Morticia promised. Gomez and I would move mountains before we'd let that happen. And we've moved several, so that's not merely a figure of speech. This drew a small smile from Harry. Thank you for wanting me. Oh, Harry, Morticia said softly, you've brought such delightful darkness into our lives in just one day. It's we who should be thanking you. She leaned down and pressed a cool kiss to his forehead. Sleep well, little raven. Tomorrow brings new wonders. After Morticia left, Harry changed into the black pajamas that had been laid out for him and climbed into bed. The mattress was firm but comfortable, the sheets cool and smooth against his skin. From outside came the soft hooting of owls and other, less identifiable sounds that might have frightened him yesterday but now felt oddly comforting. He was almost asleep when a soft knock came at his door. Harry? You awake? Enid whispered, poking her head in. Yeah, he replied, sitting up. Enid slipped inside, followed by Wednesday, who was carrying a large, ancient-looking book. We brought you something, Wednesday said, placing the book on Harry's bed. Information. Harry picked up the heavy tome. The cover read, Notable Magical Catastrophes of the 20th Century. Open to the bookmark, Wednesday instructed. Harry did so, finding a chapter titled, The Fall of He Who Must Not Be Named and the Miracle of the Boy Who Lived. His own name jumped out at him from the text. "It's about my parents," he whispered. "About what really happened." Wednesday nodded. "Knowledge is power. You should know your own history." "Won't this scare him?" Enid asked, giving Wednesday a pointed look. "Probably," Wednesday conceded. "But fear based on truth is better than comfort built on lies." Harry clutched the book tightly. "Thank you. I want to know." "We'll leave you to read," Wednesday said, turning to go. "Wait," Harry called. "Could you stay? Just while I read the first part." The girls exchanged glances. "I'll stay," Enid offered. "Wednesday needs her beauty sleep. All that paleness doesn't maintain itself." "I don't sleep," Wednesday replied flatly. "I wait." But she settled into a chair near the window, while Enid perched on the edge of Harry's bed. For the next hour, Harry read about the rise of a dark wizard called Voldemort, the terror he inflicted on the wizarding world, and the night he came to Godric's Hollow to murder Harry's parents. He learned of his mother's sacrifice, the killing curse that somehow rebounded, and his inexplicable survival that earned him the title, The Boy Who Lived. He read until his eyes grew heavy, processing the terrible truth about his past. His parents hadn't died in a car crash, they had died protecting him. They had been brave. They had been heroes. "They loved me," he murmured as sleep began to claim him. "Enough to die for me." "The strongest magic there is," Wednesday said quietly, taking the book from his loosening grip. "Blood magic. Sacrifice magic. The kind the Addams family understands." "Get some sleep, Harry," Enid said softly, tucking the blankets around him. "You're safe now. Promise you'll be here tomorrow?" Harry asked, his voice slurring with exhaustion. "Promise," both girls replied. As Harry drifted off, he felt a strange mixture of emotions. Grief for the parents he couldn't remember. Anger at the Dursleys for their years of lies. Fear of the dark wizard who might not be truly gone. But overriding all of these was a new, unfamiliar feeling, belonging. He belonged with these strange, macabre people who celebrated his differences instead of punishing them. Who gave him knowledge instead of lies. Who offered protection without smothering him. For the first time in his life, Harry Potter fell asleep feeling truly safe, truly wanted, and truly home. Chapter 3, Finding his darkness. 3 weeks passed in a whirlwind of strange lessons, bizarre family traditions, and more acceptance than Harry had experienced in his entire life. The scrawny, frightened boy who'd been locked in a car was rapidly disappearing, replaced by a child who stood straighter, smiled more often, and no longer flinched when someone raised a hand near him. Harry balanced on the railing of the mansion's widow's walk, arms outstretched, while Wednesday observed with clinical interest. 30 feet below, Enid paced nervously, ready to sprint beneath him if he fell. "You're wobbling," Wednesday noted. "Focus on your center of gravity." "I'm trying," Harry replied, taking careful steps along the narrow iron railing. "It's higher than I thought." "Height is irrelevant. Fear is the enemy of balance." Harry took a deep breath and continued his precarious walk. 3 weeks ago, he'd never have attempted this. 3 weeks ago, he'd have been too afraid of punishment if he fell, too convinced of his own worthlessness to try. "Look at you go." Enid called from below. "You're doing great." Harry grinned and completed the circuit around the widow's walk. When he hopped back onto the solid platform, Wednesday made a note in her ever-present journal. "Improved fear response," she said. "And your magical aura stabilized when you found your balance. Interesting correlation." "Was I glowing again?" Harry asked, used to Wednesday's observations of his magical manifestations. "Not visibly. But your energy signature pulses when you overcome fear. It's becoming a pattern." Harry had learned to appreciate Wednesday's analytical approach. She treated him like a fascinating experiment, but her interest never felt cruel or exploitative. She simply wanted to understand everything about him, especially his magic. Can we do the potion mixing next? Harry asked eagerly. You promised to show me the one that makes objects float. After lunch, Wednesday replied. Grandmama wants to test your taste buds for poison resistance. Harry's eyes widened. Poison resistance? Don't worry, Enid said, joining them on the platform. She always starts with really mild stuff. I've done it tons of times. Did it hurt? Only the nightshade variant, Enid admitted. But that was my fault for taking too big a sip. They headed down to the kitchen, where Grandmama was stirring something that emitted purple smoke. The kitchen had become one of Harry's favorite places in the mansion. Unlike at the Dursleys, where cooking had been a chore and food often withheld as punishment, here he was encouraged to eat whatever he wanted and participate in the creation of increasingly strange dishes. Ah! My test subject arrives. Grandmama cackled, waving a gnarled wooden spoon. Ready to build up those immunities, Harry? Yes, ma'am, Harry replied, climbing onto a stool. His new confidence didn't extend to calling the Addams adults by their first names yet, despite their insistence. Good boy. We'll start with something simple. She placed 5 small cups in front of him. Mild dilutions of common household toxins. Just a tiny sip of each, and tell me what you taste. Harry glanced at Enid, who gave him an encouraging nod. Wednesday had already taken a seat across from him, journal open, ready to record his reactions. The first taste was bitter, making his tongue tingle. Hemlock, he guessed, remembering Wednesday's lessons. Grandmama beamed. Very good. Just a 1 to 1,000 dilution, of course. Next. The second was metallic and sharp, almost burning. Arsenic? Harry wasn't as sure about this one. Close. Antimony. Similar metallic profile. You're developing quite the palate. By the 5th sample, Harry had correctly identified 3 poisons and earned a celebratory, and thankfully non-toxic, cookie from Grandmama. The boy's a natural, she declared to Morticia, who had entered during the testing. Better taste discrimination than Fester had at twice his age. Wonderful, Morticia smiled, her pale hand coming to rest on Harry's shoulder. Lunch is ready in the dining room. Lurch has prepared something special for Harry's 3-week anniversary with us. The dining room table was set with black candles and a centerpiece of thorny, stemmed roses. Lurch stood beside a covered silver platter, looking as proud as his perpetually gloomy face could express. What's the occasion? Harry asked as they took their seats. 3 weeks since you joined our family, Morticia explained. In Addams' tradition, that marks the end of your probationary period. I was on probation. Harry hadn't realized he was being tested. Not in the disciplinary sense, Gomez clarified, bounding into the room with his usual energy. More of a settling-in period. And you've passed with flying colors. Dark colors, of course, the best kind. Lurch removed the cover from the platter, revealing a cake shaped like a miniature haunted mansion, complete with tiny gravestones and edible gargoyles. It's the house. Harry exclaimed. And look, there's even a little me. He pointed to a small chocolate figure standing on a frosting widow's walk. And Wednesday and Enid, Gomez added, pointing out 2 more figures beside little Harry. The terrible trio. Striking fear into the hearts of confectionery everywhere. Make a wish, Harry, Morticia prompted as Lurch lit the black candles. Harry closed his eyes and wished with all his might, please let me stay here forever. Then he blew out the candles. The cake tasted normal despite its appearance, chocolate with vanilla frosting and raspberry filling. Harry savored every bite, still amazed that he was allowed, encouraged, even, to eat sweets. Now that the probationary period has ended, Morticia announced as they finished dessert, we can begin the more, specialized aspects of your education. Like what? Harry asked eagerly. Magical theory beyond the basics, Wednesday said. Practical applications of your innate abilities. And preparation for your eventual formal magical schooling. McGonagall mentioned a place called Hogwarts, Harry remembered. Where my parents went. Indeed, Morticia nodded. You have a birthright position there when you turn 11. But that's years away, and there's much to learn before then. Starting with proper Addams family magic. Gomez declared. The kind they don't teach in schools. The wild magic, the blood magic, the magic that runs in family lines. But I'm not really an Addams, Harry pointed out. The table fell silent. Gomez and Morticia exchanged glances. That, Gomez said, suddenly serious, is something we wanted to discuss with you, my boy. Harry's heart sank. Was this where they told him he couldn't stay after all? Harry, Morticia said gently, we've come to care for you very deeply these past weeks. You've brought a special kind of darkness into our home, not evil, but profound. The shadow of great potential. What your mother means, Gomez continued, is that we'd like to make your place here official. Permanent. Harry hardly dared to hope. You mean? We want to adopt you, Wednesday stated plainly. Legally. Magically. Completely. You'd be a true Addams, Gomez confirmed, while keeping your Potter heritage. The best of both worlds. You. Harry's voice caught. You want me? For real. More than you know, dear one, Morticia said, her usually composed face softening. We've already begun the legal process. The Dursleys have signed away all rights, quite eagerly, I might add. All that remains is for you to decide if this is what you want. Harry couldn't speak. Tears welled in his eyes, but for once, they weren't tears of sadness or fear. They were tears of overwhelming joy. Yes, he finally managed. Yes, please. I want to be an Addams. Gomez leapt from his chair with a whoop of delight. It's settled. We'll begin preparations for the adoption ceremony immediately. Blood oaths. Ancestral invocations. Sacred bindings. And paperwork, Morticia added pragmatically. Quite a lot of paperwork. There is one complication, Wednesday noted. The wizarding authorities. They'll object. Let them object. Gomez declared. The Addams family has faced down witch hunters, mob violence, and tax auditors. A few wand wavers don't frighten us. Nevertheless, Morticia interjected, we should prepare for their resistance. Professor McGonagall's visit was merely the opening salvo. I expect this Dumbledore person will make an appearance soon. That's why we need to complete the family bindings before they interfere, Grandmama said. Once the boy is tied to the Addams bloodline through the ancient rites, even their magic can't easily sever it. Harry looked between them, both excited and nervous. What does that involve? The binding thing? Nothing too strenuous, Morticia assured him. A midnight ceremony in the family crypt, some ancestral invocations, a mingling of blood, just a drop or two, and the acceptance of the Addams family magic into your own. It sounds intense, Harry said. Intensely awesome, Enid corrected. I got to watch Wednesday's cousin perform a blood ritual last year. It was seriously cool. All smoky and glowy and stuff. And it doesn't hurt? Harry asked. Only momentarily, Wednesday replied matter-of-factly. The family magic tests your worthiness. But you'll pass. You already carry darkness within you. Indeed he does, came a new voice. Everyone turned to see Fester standing in the doorway, uncharacteristically serious. I've been monitoring the wards Grandmama set up. We've got visitors. Magical ones. Approaching the front gate. They're early, Morticia frowned. We expected McGonagall tomorrow. It's not just the cat lady, Fester reported. There's an old man with major magical mojo, and some kind of dark fellow who reads like bad news. Dumbledore, Morticia guessed. And perhaps a ministry representative. What do we do? Harry asked, fear creeping back into his voice. Gomez placed a firm hand on Harry's shoulder. We stand our ground, my boy. The Addams family home is a fortress of legal and magical protection. They can't simply take you. Gomez is right, Morticia said calmly. However, I suggest we receive them civilly. Wednesday, take Harry and Enid to the conservatory. We'll call you when appropriate. I want to be there, Harry insisted, standing straighter. They're coming for me. I should face them. The adults exchanged surprised glances. Bold. Gomez declared approvingly. The Addams spirit already grows strong in you. Are you sure, Harry? Morticia asked gently. These are powerful wizards, and they may say things that upset you. Harry nodded firmly. I'm sure. The Dursleys always made decisions about me without me. I don't want that to happen again. Very well, Morticia agreed. But stay close to Wednesday. She knows protective spells if necessary. The doorbell rang, a long, mournful toll that echoed throughout the mansion. Lurch shuffled off to answer it while the family moved to the formal parlor. Harry positioned himself between Wednesday and Enid on a small love seat, trying to look more confident than he felt. Moments later, Lurch returned, announcing in his deep, rumbling voice, Professor Dumbledore. Professor McGonagall. Mr. Snape. The three visitors who entered couldn't have been more different from each other. McGonagall looked much as she had during her previous visit, stern, proper, in emerald robes. Beside her stood a tall, ancient-looking man with a silver beard that reached his waist, half-moon spectacles, and robes of deep purple covered in silver stars. Behind them both lurked a thin, sallow-faced man with shoulder-length black hair, a hooked nose, and entirely black attire. Ah, the famous Addams family, the old man said, his voice warm and his eyes twinkling behind his spectacles. Thank you for receiving us on such short notice. I am Albus Dumbledore, headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Welcome to our home, Morticia replied coolly. This is my husband, Gomez, my mother, my daughter Wednesday, our friend Enid Sinclair, and of course, Harry Potter, whom I believe is the reason for your visit. Dumbledore's piercing blue eyes found Harry immediately, studying him with keen interest. Indeed he is. Hello, Harry. Hello, sir, Harry replied, unconsciously sitting up straighter under that penetrating gaze. This is Professor Severus Snape, Dumbledore continued, gesturing to the dark-clothed man, our potions master at Hogwarts and a colleague with specific expertise relevant to our discussion. The pale man called Snape barely nodded in greeting, his black eyes fixed on Harry with an expression that bordered on hostility. Harry resisted the urge to shrink back, instead meeting the gaze as steadily as he could. Please, be seated, Morticia invited, gesturing to the available chairs. The visitors sat, though Snape remained perched on the edge of his seat as if ready to spring up at any moment. I'll be direct, Mrs. Addams, Dumbledore began. We're here about Harry. His presence in your home raises several serious concerns. More serious than his previous living conditions? Wednesday asked bluntly. The cupboard under the stairs. The starvation? The neglect? McGonagall winced visibly. Dumbledore's smile dimmed slightly. I am aware that Harry's life with the Dursleys was not ideal, not ideal. Enid interrupted indignantly. They locked him in a car and abandoned him. Miss Sinclair, wasn't it? Dumbledore turned his twinkling gaze to her. Your concern for Harry is admirable. However, there are factors at play beyond immediate comfort. Such as? Gomez prompted, twirling his mustache. Protection, Dumbledore replied gravely. Harry is not just any magical child. He survived an attack by the most dangerous dark wizard of our time, and while Voldemort, Snape and McGonagall flinched at the name, is gone for now, his followers remain. Some would dearly love to harm the boy who caused their master's downfall. And you believe he was protected at the Dursleys? Morticia asked skeptically. He was, Dumbledore confirmed. Through ancient magic invoked by his mother's sacrifice. Blood magic, tied to his mother's sister, his Aunt Petunia. While under her roof, with her blood relation, Harry was shielded from magical detection and attack. Yet you found him here easily enough, Wednesday pointed out. Because he performed significant magic, McGonagall explained. It created a surge our monitoring systems detected despite any protections. And there's the crux of our concern, Dumbledore continued. Without the blood protection of his relatives, Harry is vulnerable. Particularly here, in a household known for unusual magical practices. You think we would harm the boy? Grandmama cackled incredulously. When we're the ones who rescued him from those horrible muggles? Not intentionally, perhaps, Dumbledore said diplomatically. But the Addams family's reputation precedes it. Your particular brand of magic is unpredictable, often dangerous. Only to those who threaten us, Gomez replied cheerfully. Harry is family now. The Addams protection extends to him fully. He is not your family, Snape spoke for the first time, his voice cold and precise. He is James and Lily Potter's son, and his guardianship was legally established by wizarding authorities. Authorities who dumped him with abusive relatives and never checked on him, Wednesday countered. We did check, Dumbledore insisted. Through means that wouldn't disrupt the protective wards. Not well enough, Harry said suddenly, drawing everyone's attention. If you'd really checked, you'd have seen how they treated me. The room fell silent. Dumbledore regarded Harry with a mixture of surprise and what might have been regret. Harry, he said gently, I understand you may feel this way, but the protections that kept you safe were worth being called a freak every day. Harry interrupted, his voice growing stronger. Worth never having enough food? Worth being punished every time I did accidental magic? The boy has a point, Albus, McGonagall said quietly. If even half of what he describes is true, it doesn't change the reality of the situation, Dumbledore maintained. Harry must return to his blood relatives for his own safety. No, Harry said firmly, standing up. I won't go back. Snape's lip curled. Just like your father. Arrogant, thinking you know better than your elders, you knew my father? Harry asked, momentarily distracted. Professor Snape was a schoolmate of your parents, McGonagall explained, shooting Snape a warning look. And my mother too. Snape's expression flickered, something complex passing behind his dark eyes. Yes, he said shortly. Then you should know they wouldn't want me living with people who hated me, Harry pressed. Who hated them too? What the dead want is irrelevant, Snape snapped. What matters is keeping you alive, you foolish boy. Severus, Dumbledore cautioned before turning back to the Addamses. Perhaps we could discuss alternatives. A wizarding family, perhaps, with proper training in conventional magic. Harry stays with us, Gomez declared, standing to match Harry's stance. We've already begun the legal adoption process. Dumbledore's eyes widened slightly. Adoption? I'm afraid that's impossible. The magical guardianship, we're aware of the magical aspects, Morticia cut in smoothly. My mother has thoroughly examined the blood protections. They can be transferred, modified. Modified? Dumbledore looked skeptical. Blood magic is ancient, powerful. It can't simply be redirected like a garden hose, Mrs. Addams. Can't it? Grandmama challenged, leaning forward in her chair. I've been practicing blood magic since before you grew that fancy beard, Dumbledore. The protection Lily Potter created doesn't require her sister specifically, it requires family who truly love and accept the boy. Something those Dursleys never provided. An interesting theory, Dumbledore allowed. But unproven and potentially dangerous to test. More dangerous than leaving him with people who lock him in cupboards. Wednesday asked. That's a separate issue that could be addressed, McGonagall suggested. Perhaps with more frequent monitoring of the Dursley household. So he'd still be miserable, just with occasional check-ins to make sure he's not quite dead. Enid snorted. That's your solution? Harry looked between the arguing adults, frustration building. This was exactly what he'd feared, people making decisions about him without considering what he wanted. Stop it, he shouted suddenly. All of you. The room fell silent, everyone turning to stare at Harry. A strange wind had picked up inside the parlor, swirling around him, making his untidy black hair stand on end. Small objects on nearby tables began to rattle. Harry, Dumbledore began cautiously. You need to calm yourself, no. You need to listen. Harry retorted, the wind growing stronger. I'm not going back to the Dursleys. I don't care about blood protection or magical guardians or any of it. The Addamses want me. They care about me. They don't lock me up or call me freak or hate me for being magical. As he spoke, the candles in the room flared higher, responding to his emotion. Books flew off shelves, circling the room. The chandelier above them swayed dangerously. Impressive, Wednesday noted, calmly dodging a flying book. Harry, please, McGonagall urged, looking genuinely concerned. Accidental magic can be dangerous. It's not accidental, Harry replied, focusing his energy as Wednesday had taught him. The swirling objects slowed, now orbiting him in a controlled pattern. I'm doing it on purpose. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose nearly to his hairline. Controlled wandless magic. At your age? That's remarkable. The Addamses have been teaching me, Harry explained, gradually letting the objects return to their places as his anger cooled. They don't make me hide what I am. I can see that, Dumbledore murmured, studying Harry with new interest. Perhaps I've underestimated the situation. That's putting it mildly, Grandmama cackled. Morticia rose gracefully from her chair. Headmaster Dumbledore, we understand your concerns for Harry's safety. We share them. But surely you can see that Harry is thriving here in ways he never did with the Dursleys. Physically, certainly, Dumbledore acknowledged. And his magical development is unprecedented. However, the blood protection can be recreated, Grandmama insisted. Through a proper adoption ritual. Blood of my blood, magic of my magic. The boy becomes Addams in blood as well as name, while retaining his Potter heritage. Snape scoffed. Impossible. Blood adoption is ancient magic, largely forgotten, by wizards, perhaps, Grandmama cut in. The Addams family remembers the old ways. The ways before wands and Latin incantations. Primal magic. Family magic. Dumbledore stroked his beard thoughtfully. Even if such a ritual were possible, it would fundamentally change Harry. His magical signature, perhaps even his innate abilities. It would add to them, not replace them, Morticia corrected. The Potter magic would remain, joined by the Addams lineage. Harry listened, fascinated. No one had mentioned this aspect of the adoption before. Would I still be me? He asked hesitantly. Of course, dear, Morticia assured him. You'd be you with additional magical heritage. Like adding a new branch to your family tree without removing any existing ones. McGonagall cleared her throat. Albus, perhaps we should consider this option. If it truly could maintain the blood protection. It's entirely experimental, Snape objected. The boy is too important to risk on untested magic. Untested by you, perhaps, Grandmama retorted. The Addams family has performed blood adoptions for centuries. May I suggest a compromise? Dumbledore said, his tone conciliatory. A period of observation and testing. Harry remains with the Addams family temporarily while we verify the viability of this blood adoption ritual and its protective capabilities. How long a period? Gomez asked suspiciously. 3 months, Dumbledore proposed. with weekly visits from either myself or Professor McGonagall to monitor Harry's well-being and magical development. And if, after 3 months, you determine the adoption is viable, Morticia pressed. Then we would not oppose it, Dumbledore conceded. Provided certain conditions are met regarding Harry's future magical education. What conditions? Wednesday asked sharply. Harry must attend Hogwarts when he turns 11, Dumbledore stated. It's his birthright as the son of James and Lily Potter, and vital for his proper magical training. That's years away, Gomez pointed out. We've no objection to Hogwarts eventually. The boy should know his heritage from both sides. And his magical training until then? McGonagall inquired. A combination of Addams' family magic and conventional wizarding basics, Morticia suggested. We're not opposed to balanced education. Perhaps you could recommend appropriate preparatory materials. McGonagall nodded, looking faintly approving. I could arrange that. And the boy's legal status during this trial period? Snape asked, still looking thoroughly unconvinced. Temporary guardianship with the Addams family, Dumbledore decided. With the understanding that no permanent blood magic will be performed until the 3 months have elapsed and we've reached agreement. Harry had been following the negotiation with growing anxiety. Do I get any say in this? All eyes turned to him once more. Of course, my boy, Dumbledore said kindly. What would you prefer? I want to stay here, Harry said without hesitation. I want the adoption to happen. I want to be an Addams and a Potter both. Even understanding the risks. Snape challenged. Blood magic is not to be trifled with, Potter. It changes you fundamentally. I've spent my whole life being punished for what I am, Harry replied, meeting Snape's gaze steadily. The Addamses are the first people who've ever wanted me because of what I am, not despite it. A curious expression crossed Snape's face, something almost like respect, quickly masked by his customary scowl. Well said, Harry, Dumbledore nodded. Very well. The trial period begins today. 3 months, with weekly check-ins. If all goes well, we will revisit the adoption question then. And if all does not go well? Morticia asked pointedly. Dumbledore's expression turned grave. Then we would need to reconsider Harry's placement. Not necessarily with the Dursleys, but perhaps with another wizarding family. That won't be necessary, Gomez declared confidently. The boy is an Addams at heart already. You'll see. The meeting concluded with the arrangement of specific details, which days McGonagall would visit, what magical tests would be conducted, what materials would be provided for Harry's education. Throughout it all, Harry remained at Wednesday's side, hardly daring to believe he'd won even a temporary victory. As the wizards prepared to leave, Dumbledore approached Harry directly. Harry, my boy, he said quietly, I want you to know that everything I've done, everything I continue to do, is for your protection. Your parents would have wanted you safe above all else. I am safe here, Harry replied. And happy too. That matters, doesn't it? Dumbledore studied him for a long moment. Yes, he finally said. Perhaps it matters more than I've allowed myself to believe. He straightened up. I look forward to seeing your progress, Harry Potter. You continue to surprise me. After the visitors departed, the Addams family gathered in the parlor, debriefing the meeting. 3 months. Gomez exclaimed, pacing energetically. Bureaucratic nonsense. As if we need their approval. We do need it, darling, Morticia reminded him gently. At least until Harry is fully bound to the family through blood and magic. Once that's done, even Dumbledore's considerable power would struggle to separate him from us. So we're just pretending to go along with their rules? Harry asked, half alarmed and half impressed. Not pretending, Morticia clarified. Strategically cooperating. There's a difference. We'll use these 3 months to prepare you properly, Wednesday explained. Strengthen your magical core, teach you Addams' defensive magic, ensure you're ready for the blood adoption ritual. And we'll wow those stuffy wizard types with how much better you're doing here." Enid added enthusiastically. "They'd have to be total jerks to take you away after seeing how happy you are." "Fortunately for us," Grandmama cackled, "wizards are notoriously resistant to change. They'll be so busy arguing about precedent and procedure that we'll have completed the blood ritual before they realize what's happening." "Isn't that dishonest?" Harry asked uncertainly. "Not at all," Gomez assured him. "We'll follow their conditions to the letter. We simply interpret no permanent blood magic more creatively than they might. The preparatory rituals aren't technically permanent," Wednesday explained. "They merely ready your magical signature to accept the final binding. Completely within the terms of the agreement." Harry couldn't help but laugh. "You're finding loopholes." "An Addams family specialty," Gomez winked. "Right up there with explosive chemistry and tango dancing." The next weeks passed in a blur of activity. True to their word, the Addamses balanced Harry's education between conventional wizarding basics and their own unique family magic. Mornings were spent with Grandmama, learning potions and herbal preparations. Unlike the precise measurements and rigid procedures described in the wizarding books McGonagall had provided, Grandmama's approach was intuitive. "Feel the ingredients, Harry," she instructed as they worked on a protection brew. "Each plant, each substance has its own energy. They speak to you if you listen." Harry closed his eyes, hands hovering over the array of bottles and jars spread before him. He'd been skeptical at first, but after weeks of practice, he could indeed sense different energies emanating from the materials. "The wolfsbane wants to join the mixture next," he said, reaching for a purple flower. "Very good." Grandmama approved. "Your sensitivity is improving daily." Afternoons belonged to Wednesday, who focused on developing Harry's natural magical abilities. "Wandless magic is considered advanced by wizarding standards," she explained as they practiced in the cemetery. "But that's because they've become dependent on wands as foci. Children naturally perform magic without tools before they're trained to rely on them." "Is that why you're teaching me this way? So I won't need a wand?" "You'll still learn wand magic when you attend Hogwarts," Wednesday clarified. "But by developing your innate abilities first, you'll never be helpless without one. An advantage most wizards lack." Harry concentrated on the stone Wednesday had placed on a grave marker, willing it to levitate. It wobbled, then rose shakily into the air. "Good," Wednesday nodded. "Now move it in a circle." The stone traced a rough circle before dropping back to the marker. "Better than yesterday," Wednesday noted. "Your control is improving." Evenings were for family activities, strange games in the dungeon, expeditions through the swamp, or lessons in Addams' family history from Gomez. "Your great-great-grandfather, that is, he will be once the adoption is complete," once challenged Death himself to a game of chess. Gomez recounted dramatically. "Played for 3 days straight. In the end, Death conceded, though he did take great-great-grandfather's left ear as a consolation prize." "Really?" Harry asked, wide-eyed. "Well, the ear part is definitely true," Gomez winked. "We still have it in a jar in the study. Once a week, as arranged, either Dumbledore or McGonagall would visit to check on Harry's progress. These visits were initially tense, but as the weeks passed, even McGonagall couldn't deny the positive changes in the boy. "Your magical control is remarkable for your age, Mr. Potter," she commented during her third visit, after Harry had demonstrated his ability to levitate multiple objects simultaneously. "Wednesday says I have good instincts," Harry replied proudly. "Indeed you do," McGonagall agreed, making notes on a parchment. "Your parents were both naturally gifted as well. Your father excelled at transfiguration, while your mother had a particular talent for charms and potions." Harry soaked up these details eagerly. The Addamses encouraged his questions about his birth parents, even as they prepared to make him legally their own. "Having two families doesn't diminish either," Morticia had explained when Harry wondered if it was disloyal to want to be an Addams while still honoring the Potters. It enriches you. The Potter legacy and the Addams heritage will complement each other, like shadow and light creating depth. As the end of the 3-month trial period approached, the preparations for the blood adoption ritual intensified. Grandmama spent hours brewing the necessary potions, while Morticia and Gomez prepared the family crypt for the ceremony. The magic will be strongest at midnight on the full moon, Grandmama explained. Which conveniently falls on the exact day our 3 months are up. Almost like fate, wouldn't you say? Or excellent planning, Wednesday remarked dryly. The night before Dumbledore's final evaluation visit, Harry found himself unable to sleep. What if something went wrong? What if Dumbledore decided he should be placed with another family after all? The thought of leaving the Addamses filled him with dread. A soft knock at his bedroom door interrupted his anxious thoughts. "Come in," he called quietly. The door opened to reveal Wednesday, Enid, and to his surprise, Pugsley, Wednesday's brother who had been away at explosive ordnance camp and had only returned the previous day. "You're not sleeping," Wednesday observed. "Logical, given tomorrow's significance." "We thought you might want company," Enid explained, bouncing onto the edge of Harry's bed. "Pre-ceremony jitters are totally normal. And I wanted to meet my maybe new brother before all the formal stuff," Pugsley added, examining Harry with open curiosity. "Wednesday's letters said you're good at making things explode." "Not on purpose," Harry clarified. "Just when I get upset." "Purpose is overrated," Pugsley shrugged. "The best explosions are spontaneous." "We brought you something," Wednesday said, producing a small, ornate box. "An early adoption gift." Harry took the box cautiously. Gift-giving in the Addams household often involved surprises ranging from mildly startling to actively dangerous. Inside the box lay a small silver locket on a chain. The locket was oval-shaped with intricate engravings of ravens and thorny vines. "It's beautiful," Harry said, lifting it carefully. "Open it," Wednesday instructed. Harry did so. Inside was a tiny compartment containing what looked like a lock of black hair and a small, dark red stone. "Family heirlooms," Wednesday explained. "A strand of hair from great-grandmother Morgana Addams, known for her powerful protection spells. And a bloodstone charged by the full moon. Once you're officially adopted, they'll recognize you as family," Pugsley added. "If you're ever in danger, they'll activate protective magic." "We thought you might want some extra insurance," Enid explained. "You know, with all those dark wizard followers maybe still looking for you." Harry was touched by their thoughtfulness. "Thank you," he said, putting the locket around his neck. "All of you. Don't get sentimental," Wednesday warned. "It's merely practical preparation." But Harry didn't miss the way her lips quirked slightly, the closest thing to a smile Wednesday ever allowed herself. The next morning, Dumbledore arrived promptly at 10, accompanied by both McGonagall and, surprisingly, Snape. A full delegation, Morticia observed as she welcomed them. "Should we be flattered or concerned?" "Merely thorough, Mrs. Addams," Dumbledore replied pleasantly. "As this is our final evaluation before making a permanent decision regarding Harry's placement, I thought it best to have multiple perspectives." The evaluation was comprehensive. Harry demonstrated his magical progress, underwent a magical health examination from McGonagall, and even brewed a simple potion under Snape's critical eye. "Adequate," was Snape's grudging assessment. "Your technique is unorthodox, but the result is acceptable." From Snape, Harry had learned this was practically effusive praise. After the formal tests, Dumbledore requested a private conversation with Harry in the conservatory. "You seem happy here, Harry," the old wizard observed as they sat among the carnivorous plants. "I am," Harry confirmed. "Happier than I've ever been." "And the Addams family's unusual proclivities don't frighten you?" "The focus on darkness, death, the macabre." Harry considered this. "They did at first. But now I understand better. It's not about being evil or scary. It's about accepting all parts of life, even the parts most people want to pretend don't exist. An insightful observation for one so young, Dumbledore nodded. And your magical education? Do you feel it's progressing well? Wednesday says I'm advancing faster than expected, Harry replied proudly. And I've read all the books Professor McGonagall brought. I like learning about different kinds of magic. I can see that, Dumbledore smiled. Your wandless abilities are particularly impressive. Most wizards require years of training to achieve what you're doing instinctively. The Addamses say it's because I'm not being taught limitations, Harry explained. They don't tell me something's too advanced or impossible. They just show me how to try. A refreshing approach, Dumbledore acknowledged. Though not without risks. Everything has risks, Harry said, repeating one of Morticia's frequent sayings. The question is whether they're worth the rewards. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. You sound like an Addams already. He leaned forward slightly. Tell me honestly, Harry. Is this what you truly want? To be adopted by this family, to take on their name alongside your own, to bind yourself to their unique magical heritage? Yes, Harry said without hesitation. More than anything. Dumbledore studied him intently for a long moment. Very well, he finally said. I see no reason to object to the adoption proceeding. Harry's heart leapt. Really? You mean it? I do, Dumbledore confirmed. You are thriving here in ways I did not anticipate. Your magical development is exceptional, your physical health has improved dramatically, and most importantly, you are happy. He sighed softly. I made a mistake in placing you with the Dursleys without ensuring your well-being was monitored properly. I won't compound that error by removing you from a home where you are clearly flourishing. Thank you, sir. Harry exclaimed, barely resisting the urge to hug the old wizard. There are conditions, of course, Dumbledore added. You must still attend Hogwarts when you turn 11. The blood adoption ritual must be performed under supervision of a ministry official to ensure it meets safety standards. And I would like regular updates on your magical development. That's fine, Harry agreed quickly. The Addamses already said I should go to Hogwarts to learn about my parents and wizarding magic. Excellent, Dumbledore smiled. Then I believe we have an agreement. He rose from his seat. Shall we inform the family of our decision? The rest of the day passed in a blur of excitement and preparation. Dumbledore departed after finalizing the details, promising to return that night with a ministry official to witness the adoption ritual. McGonagall left with him, offering Harry a rare smile and a pat on the shoulder. Snape lingered briefly, fixing Harry with an inscrutable look. Your mother, he said abruptly, would have wanted you happy. Even in unconventional circumstances. Before Harry could respond, Snape turned sharply and followed the others, his black robes billowing behind him. The hours until midnight crawled by with excruciating slowness. Harry tried to distract himself by helping with the preparations, but his mind kept racing with anticipation and lingering anxiety that something might still go wrong. Breathe, Harry, Morticia advised, noticing his nervousness as they arranged black candles in the family crypt. The universe unfolds as it should. Tonight, you become an Addams in blood and spirit, just as you already are in heart. Finally, midnight approached. The family gathered in the crypt, a spacious chamber beneath the cemetery, lined with generations of Addams' ancestors. Grandmama had prepared the ritual space in the center, a pentagram drawn in what Harry hoped wasn't actual blood, surrounded by black candles and ceremonial daggers. Dumbledore arrived precisely at 11:45, accompanied by a small, nervous-looking wizard introduced as Mr. Proudfoot from the Department of Magical Adoptions and Inheritances. Quite a setting, Proudfoot commented, eyeing the tomb with obvious discomfort. Most magical adoptions take place in ministry offices. Or at least above ground. The Addams family has always conducted important rituals among our ancestors, Morticia explained. Their spirits lend power to the magic. Right. Of course. Perfectly, standard, Proudfoot muttered, clutching his paperwork tightly. As the grandfather clock in the mansion above struck midnight, its chimes echoing down to the crypt, Grandmama stepped forward. "It is time," she announced. "Harry, take your place in the center of the pentagram." Harry moved to the designated spot, heart pounding with excitement and nerves. The Addamses formed a circle around him: Gomez, Morticia, Wednesday, Pugsley, Grandmama, Fester, and even Lurch. Thing perched on a nearby tomb, giving Harry an encouraging thumbs up. As witnesses, Grandmama addressed Dumbledore and Proudfoot, "You will observe but not interfere. The magic we invoke tonight is ancient and does not welcome interruption." Dumbledore nodded solemnly. "We understand." Grandmama began the ritual, speaking in a language Harry didn't recognize, guttural and flowing by turns. As she spoke, the candles flared higher, casting long shadows across the crypt walls. The air grew thick with magical energy, making Harry's skin tingle. "Blood of our blood," Morticia intoned, stepping forward with a small silver knife. "Magic of our magic. We call upon the ancient powers of family and binding." One by one, each Addams pricked their finger with the knife, allowing a single drop of blood to fall into a silver chalice Grandmama held. When all had contributed, Grandmama added various potions and ingredients, stirring the mixture with a bone wand. "Harry James Potter," Gomez called formally. "Do you come willingly to the Addams family? Do you accept our blood, our magic, our legacy as your own, while maintaining the noble heritage of House Potter?" "I do," Harry replied, his voice steady despite his nerves. "Do you swear to honor the Addams ways, to embrace the shadows as well as the light, to find beauty in darkness and power in the misunderstood?" "I swear it." "Then receive the blood of your new family," Grandmama said, approaching with the chalice. "Drink, and be bound to us forevermore." Harry took the chalice, which now contained a swirling, opalescent liquid that seemed to change colors as he watched. He glanced once at Dumbledore, who gave him a small nod, then at Wednesday, who watched with rare intensity. Taking a deep breath, Harry drank. The liquid burned going down, not unpleasantly, like cinnamon and electricity. Heat spread through his body, followed by a strange tingling sensation that grew stronger by the second. "Now," Morticia said, stepping forward with the silver knife, "your contribution to complete the circle." Harry extended his hand. Morticia pricked his finger gently, collecting a drop of his blood in a separate, smaller chalice. To this, she added a strand of Harry's hair and a tear Grandmama had collected earlier that day when Harry had been chopping onions. "Blood, body, and spirit," Morticia declared. "The essence of Harry James Potter, freely given to join with the Addams legacy." This smaller chalice was passed around the circle, each family member touching it to their lips in a symbolic acceptance. When it returned to Morticia, she poured its contents into the larger chalice, which now held a remnant of the original mixture. "The binding is prepared," she announced. "Let it be sealed with magic and intent." Grandmama raised her arms, speaking once more in the strange, ancient language. The air in the crypt began to swirl, forming a visible vortex of energy around Harry. The pentagram beneath his feet glowed with eldritch light, and the candles burned blue and green. Harry felt the magic building within and around him. It wasn't frightening, but it was powerful, like being in the center of a storm that somehow felt completely natural and right. His scar tingled, then burned briefly before settling into a pleasant warmth. "Spirits of Addams past," Grandmama called, "accept this child into your lineage. Protect him as your own. Guide him in the family ways." The magical vortex intensified. Harry thought he could almost see faces in the swirling energies, stern, proud, welcoming. For a moment, he thought he glimpsed other faces too, a woman with his green eyes, a man with his unruly black hair, but they were gone before he could be certain. "By blood, by magic, by choice and by love," Gomez declared, "we name you Harry James Potter Addams. Son of our house, heir to our traditions, protected by our ancestors, now and for all time. The vortex collapsed inward, the magical energy rushing into Harry in a wave of warmth and belonging. For a brief, stunning moment, he could feel every Addams in the room, their magic, their emotions, their acceptance of him. Then the sensation faded, leaving behind a lingering connection, like invisible threads binding him to his new family. The ritual complete, the candles returned to normal flames. The pentagram's glow faded. But Harry felt fundamentally changed, stronger, more complete somehow. "It is done," Grandmama announced with satisfaction. Mr. Proudfoot stepped forward, looking both terrified and fascinated. "Most impressive," he stammered, fumbling with his paperwork. "If you could just sign these ministry forms to officially document what just happened." "Bureaucracy," Gomez sighed dramatically. "Always following after true magic with its paperwork." As the adults handled the documentation, Wednesday approached Harry. "How do you feel?" she asked, studying him with clinical interest. "Different," Harry replied honestly. "But good different. Like I was missing something before and didn't know it." "The family magic," Wednesday nodded. "It resonates with your core now. You'll find certain Addams' abilities will come naturally to you from now on." "Like what?" "Affinity for shadows. Resistance to most poisons and curses. Communication with the deceased, to a limited degree." Wednesday listed these as casually as if describing the features of a new toy. "And your existing magic will be enhanced." Enid bounded over, unable to contain her excitement any longer. "So? Did it work? Are you officially Harry Potter Addams now? Do you feel super magical and stuff?" Harry laughed, the sound echoing in the crypt with newfound confidence. "Yes to all of that." "Most fascinating," Dumbledore commented, joining them. "I've witnessed many magical adoptions, but none quite like this. Your magical signature has indeed changed, Harry, expanded, I would say, rather than altered. The Potter magic remains strong, but now it's interwoven with the Addams family magic in a most unique pattern. Is that okay?" Harry asked, suddenly concerned. "It won't cause problems, will it?" "On the contrary," Dumbledore smiled. "I believe it may offer you protections and abilities beyond what either lineage alone could provide. Most fortuitous, given your particular destiny." "Destiny?" Harry repeated. "A discussion for another time," Dumbledore said quickly. "For tonight, enjoy your new family and this remarkable achievement." The celebration continued back in the mansion, with a feast Grandmama had prepared and gifts from each family member. Gomez presented Harry with a small fencing sword, your first of many. An Addams tradition. Morticia gave him a rare plant that hummed quietly when he touched it. It responds only to family magic. Wednesday's gift was a leather-bound journal for recording his magical experiments. Pugsley offered a collection of, mostly stable, explosive compounds. Even Lurch contributed, a haunting melody he'd composed on the harpsichord titled, For Young Master Potter Addams. As the night wore on and the celebration continued, Harry found himself sitting on the mansion's widow's walk, gazing up at the full moon. The events of the past months felt almost dreamlike, from locked in a car to adopted by a loving, if thoroughly bizarre, family. From believing his parents died in a car crash to knowing they sacrificed themselves to protect him from a dark wizard. From freak to wizard to Addams. "Penny for your thoughts," came Enid's voice as she joined him on the widow's walk. "Though they look pretty heavy, so maybe $1 would be more fair." Harry smiled. "Just thinking about everything that's happened. How much has changed." "Good changes, though, right?" Enid settled beside him. "The best," Harry confirmed. "I never thought I could belong somewhere. That people would want me for me, weird magical stuff and all." "The Addamses are experts at loving the weird stuff," Enid laughed. "It's kind of their whole thing." "What about you?" Harry asked. "You heading home tomorrow?" "Yep. Back to Rainbow Central," Enid sighed. "But I'll visit every month, like always." Can't let you forget what normal people look like. You're a werewolf, Harry pointed out with a grin. Not exactly normal. Compared to the Addamses. I'm practically boring, Enid bumped his shoulder playfully. But that's why we work as friends. Your new family's teaching you to embrace the darkness, and I'm here to remind you that a little color doesn't hurt either. The door to the widow's walk opened, and Wednesday stepped out. Mother says it's time for Harry to sleep, she announced. The ritual takes a toll on magical reserves. You need rest to integrate the changes properly. Just a few more minutes. Harry pleaded. It's so peaceful up here. Wednesday considered this. 5 minutes. Then bed. Magical exhaustion is not to be trifled with, even for an Addams. An Addams, Harry repeated softly, tasting the words. I really am one now. Genetically, magically, legally, Wednesday confirmed. Though your penchant for excessive sentimentality remains troublingly Potterish. Harry knew her well enough by now to recognize the affection behind the dry comment. Thanks, Wednesday. For everything. For hearing me in that car. For convincing your parents to let me stay. Your magical signature called to mine, Wednesday replied matter-of-factly. It was scientifically inevitable that I would respond. Still. You saved me. The Addams family protects its own, she said simply. You were always meant to be one of us. The ritual merely confirmed what was already true. As Harry finally settled into bed that night, exhausted but happier than he'd ever been, he touched the silver locket around his neck and thought about family. He had two now, the Potters, who had loved him enough to die for him, and the Addamses, who had chosen him and helped him discover who he truly was. For a boy who had spent his early years believing he deserved to be locked in a cupboard, it was a remarkable transformation. But perhaps the most remarkable change wasn't in his legal status or even his magical signature, it was in his heart. Harry Potter Addams now knew with absolute certainty that he was wanted, that he belonged, that his differences were to be celebrated rather than punished. And as he drifted off to sleep in his bedroom in the east wing of the Addams mansion, with Thing keeping watch from the bedside table and the distant sounds of Lurch playing a lullaby on the harpsichord, Harry smiled. Enid had heard his cry in the darkness, and Wednesday had recognized the shadow in his soul, and now he was home. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.